Okay, I think we're live. Start the music. Let's see everything pop up live, please. Thank you. Pop up live, please. Thank you. Oh my god. Thank you. Not on this system, please. Okay, everything going okay. Yeah. Okay, we're good. All right, everybody. Welcome to another stream tonight. So, I'll get the pity party out of the way first. And some just like topics I thought about doing and then didn't do. So, I guess first off, I got like organically hate brigaded. And if you don't know what that means, essentially, I believe that I got a lot of hate for a video that I don't think I earned. And is mistaken. Organically basically means like nobody sent anybody after me. There wasn't like an enemy streamer. There wasn't like a competition or anything. This just happened completely naturally. And that's fucking funny. Because I don't think I've ever... I very rarely see that happen. And when it does, it's because there's like some genuinely bad thing about it. So before I show you the main thing, I want to show you kind of my reference point for stuff. So before I started doing drama, well, I've always kind of done drama whenever I like really started this channel. This is really bad. This Total War video is like really bad, and so is that Unlisted Hunt Showdown epic swag compilation. But you can see from the views, like they go up and down. Not too many. Also, here's the likes for everything, I guess. Decent amount of views. No, barely any comments. Bunch of likes. Small amount of views. This is a video I expected to get hate on. Nobody saw it. This is covering Noodle's like why games are too big video, and all the points that he's wrong on. Oh god, that's almost 2 years ago. That's crazy. Some dislikes, some likes. Why Act Man is getting Act Mogged. I liked that a lot. Almost completely in balance. I think he was totally wrong. This is the first time that I ever got like hate. And some of them are like, I don't know. Most of the comments I think are kind of like reasonable. Some of them are like genuine criticizing of me and like some statements I made, and I'm like, okay, that's fair. I disagree, but like that's understandable. And some people are just like, dog shit points. You're kind of shitty, stuff like that. Oh, that's unresponded. I didn't really know how to take this at first, so like this guy is just like responding with like, so like some of your points are fair, but most of them aren't, stuff like that. And that's understandable. That's what I expect. I'm like, yeah, thanks for the criticism. When I did the YouTube like more video essay stuff about video games, I think they did okay. Besides the views on Fallout 3, nobody cared about Fallout 3. People really liked Fallout 1 and 2. No one gave a fuck about Fallout 3. Although from the like proportions, that's not bad. Then this video was like kind of hated. Like it's only like 100 views, so it's like whatever. This was about how that's Mr. Matty Plays and that's Skill Up, and they I think it should have been a controversy. Basically, they like really liked Dragon Age the Veilguard before it came out, and then after it came out they hated it. and I think they got sponsored. I think they didn't get money, and they were like, guys, we're not sponsored, but we did get flown out and paid for hotels and stuff like that. That might not have been exactly it. It's been a year since that happened, but they got like early access to stuff, made money off of it, and then we're like, guys, we have like no connection to the games industry. Frostpunk killed it. Literally, it killed my want to make video game essays because it got no views. And I worked, I think, like, probably harder than all of the Fallout videos. Maybe not combined, but a lot. And then, like, I started doing drama. I kind of figured I would get, like, 50-50 splits a lot of the time. Not too many comments to base anything off of. That's just, like, a test that's private because I wanted to see if some music was going to get claimed because Way 4 had Sabaton in it. The Noah Chrysler video didn't get any views. I think the stream did like 4 or 5 times as good as the video. I might be misremembering. This was bad. This is like a quick video I threw together. And it holds up. I think it holds up because it was just like a shit show. And the Wilbur Soot video did good. Didn't get any subscribers though. Now, as you can see from the Thor video, 1,000 views, 15 comments, and then 42 dislikes. And I think this is funny. I think this is hilarious, actually. Because, and we'll take a look at the comments. This guy doesn't understand what like a preview is, or like just hates the preview. I think it's interesting. We'll watch like the first few minutes of it. I made a thing to clear up confusion because people, and we'll see this later, people thought this was like a video essay, or like tried to make insults based on it being a video essay. And also thought that I was on Pirate Software's side. It's like, I'm not even watching this video because the fact that you agreed with a whiny brat who knows how SEO works and still tried to throw a tantrum is fucking pathetic. You are just ball washing or being contrarian. He literally did not watch like the clip right after. This is boring and your commentary doesn't add anything. I disagree. I try not to cover videos where I don't think I can do commentary. I literally had that like 5 minutes before this because I heard about Anthony Fantano in a controversy. And I was like, there's literally nothing I can add to this. But I think I do make some good points. I think I am contrarian to Lady Decade because I think it's reasonable to want your game in the description of a video, but I also think Thor lies. In that entire drama, basically. This would have cooked with a different script, and this is why like I thought he's talking about like this is a video essay, and it's like this is a stream. I say it in the first like 2 minutes. Editing style and host. It's like, okay, well, thanks, I guess. There are some editing bits I probably could have cut out. I think there's a part where I talk about like World of Warcraft and MMOs, but I doubt this person even watched like more than a few minutes. I do need to get better with previews. I agree with that. I thought this was going to be a genuine video, but it's just Thor's last glazing dick rider riding him harder. And I don't even know where this is coming from, because this entire video, I'm like, this video is shit. Thor is still shit, but this video is shit. Meme post. Pirate Software's last fanboy. They'll be extinct soon. And it's like, dude. What? Again, it's just people who don't watch the video. I have it cropped out. Wait, let me show it. Filters, crop, bottom, 100. Is that readable for you guys? No, I need to get the other one on there. Did it not? Oh, come on, OBS. What? OBS is literally fucking me right now. Alright, whatever. We have please stop making content, you're horrible. It's like, alright, fine. This video kind of sucks, I'm sorry. And it's like, one, if you're not explaining to me how to make it better, I don't give a fuck about like your opinion if you think it sucks. That's just how it is. I don't care. I think it's funny that so many people went out of their way to click on a video and then like hate watch the intro and then none of the rest of it. So I'm gonna explain this.
Why is
Lady Decade has like a gif of a crying black guy on there. I think this is super confusing and kind of interesting.
Man on my screen.
Like I wouldn't.
She's bringing up like the
watch
one
it
situation where I almost
if I didn't think it was interesting. So yeah, wait, let's go back a second.
Black man on my screen. She's bringing up like the one situation where I almost kind of agree with
So we're establishing that I don't agree with him.
Pirate Software, and she's presenting it in such a poor way where I'm like, yeah, I do agree with Pirate Software. Actually, it's so bad.
And then I'm just like, yeah, the video is bad.
The video is so bad. Despite me asking.
And then I read his texts. I literally read his text, and people are calling me a fan, and I'm like presenting to people the allegations. And I don't understand. It's like people literally did not watch the first few minutes.
This led to him tracking dirt and mud in my car.
That is hilarious. That he leaves a snail trail.
That's Sigma behavior.
Yeah, it's Sigma, but that is like a completely. That's like a post. I don't even know. That's like it's not post ironic. It's just ironic. Because Sigma's become like a pseudonym for just like loser. It's like you're so great, ironically or sarcastically. And people are like, oh, phew, I can't believe you like Pirate Software. You think he's Sigma? And I'm like, are you still like are you like the Sigma lion and the barking dog this? Like, what the fuck?
Want to get
like, do you unironically think that Sigma is like a compliment?
Do Pirate Software's other exes, can they corroborate that he doesn't wear shoes and leaves a snail trail of mud behind him? That's what I want to know.
Is that not like interesting? Is that not like entertaining? I think it is. I wouldn't have even put it in there if I didn't think it was. If I had no knowledge about Pirate Software and I'm hearing, wait, what the fuck? The video this guy's watching, there's like a random... So he's confused. So there's like a random black guy crying in there. Okay, that's weird. Okay. The video is so bad that it's making the watcher agree with the person who's being dissed. Okay. And then there's an allegation of him leaving a snail trail. It's like, okay, I'm interested. I'm invested now. If that's bad, this is what this is for, right? I'm not trying to get hate clicks because I would have put it at like the end or middle of the stream whenever people are actually like here, or the beginning of the stream title. If you're watching this in the future, tell me like where I fucked up, because I don't see it. With that being said, there is one caveat. This thumbnail is not the original one. It's very close. I changed it. Let me see. I have the original one somewhere. Can I get an image up? I think it's in my documents. Pirate Software 2. This is the original one where I put a W on him and I made it red. And I think that was a mistake because one, people saw a W and were like, oh, this guy's like jacking off Pirate Software. And then the red, I think, just made people angry. I don't know. Color theory much? Yeah, so this was like incredibly confusing, and I thought I put like a pretty good description, but I guess nobody read it. Nobody reads descriptions anyway, but like hardly anybody leaves comments either. So it's like, I don't understand how these people thought I was a fan when I like opened the first minute. They didn't even watch the first minute. I think I can see the stats. This might not be ready yet. But I know average percentage watch 3.3%, and it's like 3 minutes. It's an insane drop off, and I think I really fucked myself with either the title or the thumbnail or both. That's all I can gather. And if the intro sucks as bad as the comments say, let me know. I think it's interesting. But I don't think most people are also making drama videos, so I don't know. Whatever. So that's my hate brigading. That's it. All right, so do you want to verify? Did the stream do better? Tommy C, stop killing games, and Tommy C. Wilbursut's response. Pirate Software. Yeah, I read his fucking. I read Pirate Software's the Pirate Sucks thing, and I don't get like. I mean, I guess people didn't scroll through my thing, but I figure like if they're invested enough to leave a shitty comment, I don't know. This video did bad. The Innuendo Studios video did bad. Oh yeah, look, the Caleb Hammer employee video got 570 views. I think the actual video got like 500 or 50. Yeah, because you heard me earlier. Yeah. All right, enough of the pity party. Let's get into Pirate Software. Where's the link? Here it is. So today, my intention is to be covering Pirate Software's Roommate. And I like vaguely watched this. It was kind of boring, so I'm hoping I can add some stuff. Well, boring to watch other people watch it, so that's probably not like a good opening for this. But I'm hoping I can make it. I'll be the one. I'll be the king. Because by itself, I think it actually is pretty interesting.
I believe that the reason that Kronos gave was insincere. That is my personal belief. You know, they're getting money on top of.
Oh yeah. So by the way, this is Quintheo. Quintheo has made absolute bank off the Pirate Software stuff. Look at this shit. It's like almost 500,000 views, 1/3 views. That one almost got 1 million. Just on Pirate Software stuff. I gotta emulate whatever the fuck he's doing, because he is like doing insanely well.
Buying these bits, they're essentially
gotta
getting
steal his style and become him and wear his skin.
To me, that's illicit. To me, that should absolutely be a bannable offense. But Twitch is not going to enforce it.
Recently, I posted a video talking about Pirate Software seeming to collude with his lead moderator Kronos to inflate and extend the duration of his hype train. Now, if you'd like to...
Did I cover that? I don't remember if I covered that or not. I guess the lowdown on that one is that there is a controversy where Pirate Software ran a hype train, which is essentially... It's like a super weird gimmick that I do not understand at all, which is great because it means I'll never donate money to one. But it's this super odd gimmick where Twitch tracks how much money has been donated to you and gives you a like hype bar level, tracking, I think, like in increasing amounts how much money you've earned. And for some reason, this garners more money. However, there's like the limit to it is the catch is that if you don't donate within the time frame, you lose that hype train, and your level goes back to 0 or whatever. And for some reason, people just want to see number go up, even if it means donating hundreds of their own dollars. Or I guess it's like tens through like thousands of people. It's like, okay, so like what's the drama part? Well, the drama part is that Pirate Software, well, it's not entirely clear, which is why it's partly a drama. But Pirate Software either told or worse, gave money to his mods to donate, excuse me, when the a hype train was running low and about to die. And this is against Twitch's terms of service. This isn't something I particularly care about. I'm more so interested in the interview with a former roommate of Thor's. And I don't think that's that what's the word? Like poignant in this video? I don't think that's the right word, but maybe. And so I think that's in the next one, but I want to get more context for the rest of this. So we'll see.
Like more info on this situation, here's a link to said video. But to continue on, I had told you guys that I would potentially be speaking with a lawyer, as well as the fact that I'd reached out to someone that was working with Twitch. Now that lead ended up falling short with the person working at Twitch, but I got very lucky and ended up running into someone who had worked at Twitch for 8 years and actually had expertise with the terms of service. Their name here is Eludiana, and they were also an ex-Blizzard employee as well as ex-Twitch. And now what's even more interesting is they actually were working with Pirate Software when he worked at Blizzard. Matter of fact, she was his kind of higher up, but not only that, she was also an ex-roommate of his, and she has a lot to talk about. Now, for the sake of you guys,
okay, that's actually kind of that's literally like not sitcom, but like almost like a drama level thing of like living in the same apartment as your manager. What the hell?
Viewers, I wanted to break this down. So in this video, we're specifically going to be going over the Twitch terms of service breakages. So that's
also, I could not do that. I could not live with my manager. That would be insane. I would like literally be scared of doing anything improper ever. Or like maybe not improper, but anything they didn't like, and fears of like any kind of like not like work offense. I don't know what the right word is that I'm looking for. But it's like worried that it's like, oh, I don't like eggs, and you're making eggs every day, so I'm gonna give you like a bad or like less than a should be positive review, employee review.
It's going to be in the contents of this video, and then I'll be releasing a secondary video to go over her experiences with him as a roommate, as well as working with him. And you'll get to hear about how he would choose not to do his job and instead would browse Reddit.
Oh.
Yeah. Last 10 seconds before we jump in, consider subscribing. Really helps out the channel, and it's just a click for you guys. And like the video if you end up finding the information useful, want to help boost it in the algorithm. It really does help me a great deal. But with all that being said, hope you enjoyed the video and enjoyed the interview. So let's kind of shift our focus over to talking about the more recent stuff. A recent video that I had done had kind of brought to light that there was some exchange DMs between Pirate Software and his lead moderator Kronos that
were these DMs? I thought these were like in a moderator Discord.
They were kind of working together. Matter of fact, even with the previous messages that Kronos showed, one of which is edited, and apparently he's just not available right now, but in the next few days I should be able to see when he edited that message. But regardless, this hype train was kept alive by, at the very least, from what we see here, Kronos. And I went through in that video and did quite a hefty amount of speculation, and where that specifically there was part of that with the terms of service, and that is kind of a bit of why we got in touch. If you could, so what is your experience with Twitch, the terms of service, things like that?
Okay, this is the fun part. So I was the sole UX writer for Twitch. What that means
really?
is I touched every department.
That she was the sole UX writer or designer?
What is your experience with Twitch, the terms of service, things like that?
Okay, this is the fun part. So I was the sole UX writer for Twitch. What
UX,
that means is I touched every
they only had one writer? Oh my god.
That includes things like terms of service.
That's actually okay, that's actually something I haven't heard anybody else judge. They only had a single UX writer?
Trying to convince
no wonder Twitch is so like odd and strange.
With their terms, and
it took like so long to get any like UI updates.
As concise as possible.
I only have the one,
which makes sense because users don't want to read anything. Like that is just a thing. So we have to have an understanding in the terms of service that things need to be taken more or less literally. When we're speaking on terms of inflating numbers, we mean things like view counts. It means the actual functional numbers that would actually
that's been another thing that's been kind of lurking in the background at the moment is Twitch sorry, I heard footsteps. Yeah, that's been another issue lately is Twitch having like a huge view botting problem, and Dan Clancy I think was interviewed about it. because it got like so prolific. And that's like, I don't know. I've had my own suspicions about people viewbotting just in general lately. As you could tell, I'm not one of them. I have seen people get viewbotted maliciously as well, and it seems like people like just don't care. Maybe it's that some of the corporations like they can't care because they can't decipher who is or isn't actually viewbotting. But it's definitely an issue where it's like it just seems extremely common. This has been a thing in like, God, this has been a suspicion I've had in the VTuber community, because I like know of it. Is that they viewbot for debuts in order to like get hyped up in the algorithm, especially for YouTube. And it could totally be genuine. Maybe there are just that many people out there who really like new VTubers who they've never heard of before. But that's my knowledge. I think XQC has a lot more actually, and I might watch him talk about it, but I think it's been like in bits and pieces on Twitter, not like a whole like video or anybody like really going over it, but I can totally see people viewbotting the shit out of themselves. And the thing that makes it a controversy is it's not like the smaller people that are viewbotting, it's like the huge people as well to like break records or like get news on them, which like that's like an inflationary problem that's not easily solvable once it is fixed. Because once people get like, oh, hey, this person who said he has 1 million followers or whatever actually only has like 2,000, 3,000 that are actual real people, but they've like broken a ton of records. That's going to fuck up like news outlets and like any kind of like record setting in the future.
Tricks. Like it has nothing to do with things like donations, like
or a hype train level.
Or a hype train level.
Okay.
Like it should not have anything to do with that because hype train is one of those very pay to win systems. If you can pay to win, you pay to win. It doesn't matter where it comes from.
Okay.
Now there is something to be said about if pirate
and just to be clear, even if you do pay people, you are still making more money out of it. I think Pirate Software, Quinthio might have it later, but I think Pirate Software ended up making like $20,000 from that. After giving away money to his mods, after like essentially paying them back or paying them extra back.
Himself was using an alt account to inflate the numbers, that could potentially be an argument. But if it was his mods, it is not unusual for mods themselves to contribute to hype trains. So if they could do that in the first place, they are more than welcome to sustain the hype train.
So it's not typical for a mod to go out of their way to create an alternate account to do this thing.
Yeah, there are, and I don't want to say this is normal. Like
Sure.
This is not something that everybody does. However, something that some people will elect to do, especially if they want to protect their privacy. You'll see this with, let's say, e-girls. All right, like people will create alt accounts to give huge donations to certain accounts that they don't necessarily.
It's like one of those. It's this like weird psychological thing that I don't get at all. Not saying it doesn't affect me, but I definitely don't understand it. Where people like if they see other people donating, they'll want to donate. And like I said, I don't get that.
To have attention drawn to their mains with whatever the reasoning may be behind it. I believe that the reason that Kronos gave was insincere. That is my personal belief.
I actually agree with you, and the reason that I agree with you is because 100 tier 1 subs had already been donated by his main account, which he said as much about.
And also, if you're creating an alternate account, you do not say, this is my alternate account.
Which, yeah, he's a grown-ass man. He can do what he wants with his money. I don't think I've ever heard of
that's specifically a line that Pirate Software said about Kronos. He's a grown-ass man that can do what he wants with his money. Which is true, but also you're paying him back. There is like maybe there's not an expectation of getting paid back. I don't think it would be reasonable to have that expectation if like the person. Also, it also matters if these are like I think it matters a lot, actually, if these are paid mods or if these are people who do it for free. Because if they do it for free, I think there's like, it's not as bad, but it's still like, it might be TOS. I'm not sure. I'm not sure where my opinion lies on that, if they are paid or not.
Grown-ass man receiving a paycheck and then taking part of that check and handing it back to his boss. But I digress. That's just a goofy, funny little thing.
It's a goofy thing. And honestly, if he wanted to lie about it, he could say, I wanted the emote on 2 accounts.
Yeah, there are so many better excuses. Yeah. Okay, so this was the first main point that I had brought up. And so the reason that I was looking at this specific point here was the offering to sell, trading, bartering, or transferring bits to other users to Twitch in exchange for a...
Okay, so this is like a breaking. Offering to sell, trading, bartering, or transferring bits to other users of Twitch in exchange for a real or virtual currencies. I could see that being considered as a transfer, the hype train thing, because you're buying bits, sending it, and with the expectation that you will be paid out afterwards. I can see that being a violation. I'm not going to say it is, but I could see it.
Real or virtual currency. Now, the reason I use this is because, and I actually didn't know this at the time, but the assumption was based on the verbiage that they used in their discussion. It implied that they were trying to get the best return for the streamer, which would end up being better for Kronos when it turned. Now, I did just find out recently that it was established for that hype train that the moderators were going to be receiving half of that hype train's proceeds.
Oh, wow.
That was announced publicly. Matter of fact, it's on the Discord. I now have access.
So that absolutely does just sound like a direct like transference. Buy bits for me, I will pay you back. Which isn't like, that's not like really what I think the rule is set for. The rule I think is more so for like almost like WoW farming in a way, or like gold farming, where it's like you're not supposed to do it because there's like weird like conversion rates from other dollars than the American one. But like, shit, dude, what the fuck? Yeah, I could see it. I don't think it would cover it. I think that's what she says later.
And screenshots of that message. And so Kronos, alongside the other moderators, knew full well that they would be receiving half the money that was being sent here. So now that 80% share makes a lot more sense that they were discussing it, because that meant that they were going to get more money back after giving it to the hype train.
Yeah, but those returns actually, I think, are with respect to the transaction value of bits, because there's an exchange rate. The return on the actual purchase of bits versus what the streamer gets, because the streamer gets 100% of the bits when they're directly donated. The difference is if they're donated through an extension, which I think they were talking about extensions. If they're donated like through the soundboards and things like that,
sure,
then the extension maker obtains a portion of that.
Is that the 20% or the 18%?
That's like alien to me. So are there like soundboards or whatever that every time you use them you get a bit, or the designer gets a bit? That's weird, but okay.
82%.
That's whichever percent. I can't remember exactly the percent, but that's where the extra cut comes from. Otherwise, the bits are a one-to-one donation. So if you donate 100 bits after purchase to a streamer, they get 100 bits.
Interesting. Okay,
because
so
you've already paid that transaction fee.
That makes sense. So then in turn, well, I think we can then chalk that up. So the reason that the bit percentage that they were talking about was brought up is because they were using text-to-speech. Would that have been a third party?
So.
Okay.
But then for the other terms here, if you want me to explain these.
Yes, please.
Like real or virtual currencies. This pertains to something like a Robux. That's real or virtual currencies, like any of those virtual currencies.
So like giving bits to a creator in exchange for Robux.
You're giving me bits for WoW Gold. Can't do that.
Yeah,
Again,
okay.
So the main
She's
reason that I was focusing on
WoW
is like
Gold.
for that real currency. So I would say what you're arguing here, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that even though Kronos at this point understood that he would be getting a return of the money that was donated through the hype train, whether it be through bits, donations, etc., subs, even with him knowing that fact and then donating to the stream. In his head, or the way that he's understanding it, or maybe that pirate, or, you know, just for the hypothetical, they know that they are donating these bits, and in return, they're going to be receiving half of the funds that come back, or as that's dispersed among the moderators. Even with that kind of like thought process, that doesn't change the fact that at a fundamental level on the Twitch service, it was not a direct exchange for finances.
That's what I'm worried about. Like, that's
Okay.
the way that Twitch should enforce it, but that's not how this is written.
Okay.
That's the massive thing about the terms of service. These are the things that I was constantly fighting while I was at
Okay.
because they need to be more explicit about this. Because yes, they are making these bits.
I mean, it's one of those
donation.
things, right, where they like probably don't want to be explicit at all, actually. This is a thing that like a lot of corporations do. I think we're actually entering an age now where like people are like wising up to it, so it's like more out there. But it's like a pretty common thing to like put in your terms of service something really vague to like either catch issues that barely relate actually all that much, or am I going? Or to like, if something is directly in there, have it vague enough where it's not actually considered at all if it's somebody that you really want to keep.
In lieu of a payout later on. Like, they know they're going to get paid back, and not just reimbursed. They're getting a paycheck for this work. You
Right.
know, they're getting money on top of buying these bits. They're essentially getting bribed to do this. So to me, that's illicit. To me, that should absolutely be a bannable offense. But Twitch is not going to enforce it because
agree.
they were not using bits to exchange directly for money.
Even if this is like, okay, well, we'll work around the rule. There's no, well, we're not planning to go forward and like edit the rule to make it more specific because they prefer conciseness over coveringness.
They didn't send 10,000 bits for an Apple gift card.
That's all this is planned to cover.
It is seriously messed up.
Okay, well, totally
I
fair.
genuinely hope that I am wrong. The way that this is written and the way that this has been enforced, unless there is an actual transaction taking place, there is no way that this would be enforceable.
Okay.
It really does suck because
Well,
I completely.
So that sucks. That blows. But I mean, it can be enforced, can it? It's just that Twitch. Well, a lot of what I've learned from Twitch is that Dan Clancy isn't exactly big on having an apparatus for anything at all ever. And being able to manage issues that come up is not his forte. More so of a fix it after it becomes a problem kind of guy, which is not recommended. But also, I think I'm also on the side of like, I don't know how bad this is. It's definitely a fuck up, though.
I completely agree with you. That is how it should be enforced. There was collusion. There was a payout here.
Yes,
Yeah.
the thing that makes it worse for me isn't that is happening. It's just how that ends up incentivizing a viewer, someone that is potentially willing to donate, how that impacts their psyche when it goes into, do I donate to this person?
Oh, yeah. So I guess that's another issue I have with this entire, like, the concept of even doing this. Is that, like, to me, the entire idea of a hype train is super, like, psychologically manipulative. Even if I'm not the guy getting manipulated, right? What I observe is that other people are like extremely manipulated by this somehow. So if it's already like kind of a thing where it's like, this is already like a psychological manipulative thing. It's already kind of bad just on its own. Who cares if it gets violated a little bit more whenever you're already like taking advantage of psychology? It's like, oh no, a fucking guy took advantage of psychology even more. We can't be having that now. And it's like, well, it's kind of hard for me to be like, yeah, I like inherently disagree on a moral and whatever basis when it's like, well, it's already bad. It's like gambling in a way. Or it's getting mad at a guy for counting cards if you're already like morally against gambling. And it's like, well, you already hate the entire concept of it. Nobody cares about the guy who's counting cards. Tell me if I'm wrong. It is a violation, sure, whatever. I don't know.
Because that is just like, even with me when I was starting out my channel, it is enticing to pump my numbers up, whether it be through ads, whether it be through like any sort of type of viewership. Because when you approach a number where, like, for subscribers, you hit 100K, you have a check mark next to your name. You have 100,000 views on a video that's gone out in a couple hours. People are more.
Okay, so I guess like in a way, it's like an unfair advantage because Pirate Software is able to pool his money into that. Whereas others, even if they have like a similar like payment base, they may not be able to. I can see that. I'm not sure how much I agree with it though.
More incentivized to click on it because of that, you know, appealing to the popularity of something. There's kind of like a guaranteed buy-in that people understand, oh, this person's reputable, and you can see that proof by other people being willing to follow, listen, donate, etc.
Yeah, not only that, but oh, does this mean that we can bot hype trains now to keep them going in perpetuity?
And then they also are
Sure,
rewarded. The viewers
that
are
is an
rewarded
issue.
with the Kappa Infinite emote, with other rewards along the way, and now there's also a popular, like, he got a news article when he broke the 100.
Did he repost the interview? I swear to God, I saw this before. This is the old interview, so you probably did see it. Yeah, I haven't watched this one yet, so I wanted to cover it. But yeah, just today, Quinn Theo posted a new interview that I'll be covering right after.
6 world record. There's a lot to gain by also stimulating this. Good to hear that from someone who has that experience.
No, there was one posted, what, like 4 hours ago? Very recent.
I interviewed
3 hours ago.
Twitch. I'm glad it's not just
No, we're on the same page. Like, I regularly raged at this company. I was one of the few people who is actually embedded in streaming. Like, I was one of the few people who was a moderator for heavier partners and also a regular streamer on the platform. And it's things like this where, like, you need to clearly outline what is going on here. Like, what do these terms mean? Because people are going to exploit the system.
The engage in viewership tampering, and then you say such as. So the way that I read that is those are examples and not fully encompassing the entirety of what that plans to cover. Because again, from my perspective, when I was first reading it, I was going broad. And so in my head, when I see viewership inflation, that for me also at that time included a hype trains level, because you would assume the assumption is those are the viewers that are donating in, and that isn't the moderators, that isn't, you know, working together to do that.
I wish. Part of viewership tampering is
Well, I guess that's funny considering the recent drama that she said it might as well be okay to view bot, because Dan Clancy has essentially said that it's like an unenforceable offense to like ban you or like even catch you for view botting. So that's been pretty crazy.
thing that can play into your stream analytics. So we're talking things like chat activity. Like, that is another metric that can be tampered with.
Is revenue from donations not considered?
No, because it's not viewership.
Interesting.
That's straight revenue. Yeah.
And so correct me if I'm wrong. It sounds like the main reason that it's super focused, it has nothing to do with revenue. So even like a hype train level, as like we were kind of looking at, I think that was more from a consumer perspective. It sounds like the reason we're so focused on the viewership counts is because that's coming from a brand.
Because ad revenue.
Yes. So that's going to look bad, and that's going to end up with Twitch losing money if they don't enforce, like, you know, making sure people aren't botting views, because then those aren't actual returns on advertisers.
This can make Twitch lose their own monetization from advertisers. This can make them lose ad partners.
That makes sense. In 10-2 here.
But I do think that's a bit too extreme. There is like because I think people underestimate Twitch a lot because people don't constantly think about the fact that it's owned by Amazon. And so people are super focused on like, oh, this is the end of Twitch. This is going to be Twitch's big downfall moment. The downfall. And not really, because they're actually backed by like the biggest company in the world. So yeah, would it lose advertisers? I don't even know if advertisers are in the same system or aren't in the same system as like an Amazon Prime show. And it's like people barely watch advertisements anyway. There's a lot of just like systemic issues that kind of make this fucky wucky.
Against the terms of service, and you will not impersonate any person or entity, falsely claim an affiliation with any person or entity, access the Twitch services accounts of others without permission, etc., misrepresent the source, identity, or content of information transmitted via the Twitch services, or perform any other similar fraudulent activity. So my perspective on this, my understanding, the reason that I had brought this up is because Kronos, who I would consider at this point a public figure, because of he has his own socials, he is the lead moderator for Pirate. There was their stream, so I think for all points considered, the viewership of that treats him as a public figure as well.
Yeah, I think so too. I think, I don't know. My opinion is that if you put yourself online, if you intend to make money online, I guess, you should be considered a public figure or are making money online. It's not whether if you intend to make money or are making money, then you are kind of a public figure because you're using your figure to garner public funding, I guess. But public funding makes it sound like government stuff, but I think that point gets across. Kronos does have his own stream though, so yeah, I agree just on the basis of that.
He had an alternate account that he misrepresented as someone who knew Kronos, who spoke highly of Pirate as if, they were a viewer and they donated in that sense. And so technically, yes, it is a false affiliation with Kronos because this is Kronos himself. He faked having a friend, but the more
he faked having a friend,
that's funny. But the more
is the video
right was the misrepresenting the source
I thought
identity
I thought the video was like broken. Turns out it's just Quinthea looking at a still image.
Content of information transmitted via the Twitch services. He misrepresented, he faked being somebody else.
Yeah, and sadly, this tends to only work the opposite direction. So lying upward is what you get in trouble for. Lying downward, you do not get in trouble for. And they see that as trying to protect your real identity. So it's not hiding who you are because I'm a moderator and I can't let people know I'm a moderator. They see that as, yes, you want to not have people know that you're a moderator because then they might try to cause problems because you're a moderator.
They're not looking at it as I'm obfuscating where this money is coming from to keep this hype train alive. Because again, this is also, admittedly, this is a niche thing in comparison to Twitch's like general audience, but they're more specifically focused on some people don't want their identity and so, I mean, the rule is in place not to avoid potential fraudulent activity by pretending to be somebody else. It is to obfuscate, to protect the identities of people who don't want to be harassed.
Yeah, the fraud would be like if he was
totally on. I don't think I'm on the level. They're talking about lying downwards to protect fraud, but I understand the concept. I'm just not entirely sure what they're talking about or who they're talking about. I guess Kronos. But what did he do?
As Mongold. Saying, I am making.
It's like co-signing a crypto and putting a big name behind it. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
And I mean this. Thank you, because these are corrections to the arguments that I made. But more than that, it's very good to know that like a bit of an understanding of the intentions of these TOS guidelines as opposed to how I interpreted them based on the situation. It's cool to know that that's where they're coming from, and it makes more sense given the context.
Yeah, and honestly, like this is how they are supposed to be interpreted, because this is how they were written to be understood.
As a side note, you said that you wanted to show me a bit of proof that you two were working together. Do you have that with you?
Oh, yes, I do.
Oh, yeah, so this is crazy. She like gives out her full name here.
Is an interesting artifact. This was
so
the
I'm gonna
Platform
try to cover
Services
that up
yearbook.
With my thumbnail.
Okay.
1 year. This was 2013.
2013. There it is. Okay.
I'm not sure how many of these they produced because
it ends
they're
up
rather
like right
expensive.
there.
But this is us right there.
Okay, and so we've got, and it's kind of grainy. Would you be able to send me a photo of it too? I could probably just throw it up on the screen as well.
Absolutely.
But yeah, you're right next to each other. You're both halls.
we
we're
go.
right there. We're both
Oh,
halls.
well,
Hence
Theo
the
says it, okay.
presumed siblingness, I guess. But his title there is Associate Test Engineer.
Well, thank you
Associate
so much
Test
for
Engineer.
spending this
So-
time like going over this. Like,
Dude, he's an engineer. He's like Mutahar. So that's like a proper QA position. That's crazy. I still can't believe like living in the same apartment as your fucking as your manager. As your managem. That's super odd to me. I still don't understand that. Dad said it was my turn to play the Xbox. Move over, Squirt. Did you read the last message Twitch gave me? And I just read it. Thank you.
truly, I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for the time.
So to my complete and utter dismay, I was wrong about every single Twitch terms of service. Where I thought it could be broken, it ends up being that the reason that those were written the way that they were was for a completely different reason. And honestly, I kind of expected that I'd at least be wrong on a couple of them, but you know, maybe I guess not all of them. But it's good to know why these terms of service were written the way they were.
Humble.
Moreover, why there probably isn't going to be any consequences sent Pirates' way from Twitch. I mean, at the end of the day, their bottom dollar isn't being impacted by this more than it's actually being a positive for them. They're making more money by allowing this kind of behavior. And from how I understand it, Twitch is still working at a
It's not
loss.
like illegal either. That's the thing. It's like you can't be a manager because they would have to call it a kid-inger. You understand-inger? I get your point-inger. That's crazy. I would be so freaked out all the time if I had somebody who had like actual power over my life, like in that sense, living with me, watching my every move.
So any way that they can make money, they're going to do it, and they're probably not going to address this. But I'm curious to hear what you guys think. Let me know in the comments down below. Hope you enjoyed this segment.
Also, I don't understand the Kiddinger. No, is that like a Killinger thing?
In the future here, and I'll see you guys later. Adios. Peace.
Okay, so that was the first video. So that's just covering the terms of service. I think his next interview is more about life living with pirate software. I'm not entirely certain. I have not seen anybody cover this. I am the first drama channel to cover this video. I kind of am. I didn't see anyone. And I just agreed to force SpongeBob on you. Oh my god. Have you seen those stupid fucking memes? There's the one where SpongeBob says the N-word, and there's the other one where he's like, start digging in yo butt, twin. What the fuck is Twitter on? I need to get on Instagram. I need to go on Instagram Reels.
Bye. I
What?
interviewed an ex-coworker and
Oh, I have the video here.
an ex-coworker and roommate of Pirate Software. Now, you guys saw the first part of that interview last week when I talked about the Twitch terms of services. This person had worked at Twitch for 8 years, as well as working at Blizzard alongside Pirate Software. I figured the information was so different from the beginning of our interview to the end of it that I wanted to separate it between two separate parts. And I apologize for this one not coming out sooner, which if you want more info on that entire debacle,
Join
check
my
out my last
Discord.
video. But we go into detail from Pirate Software, even on his first day on the job, apparently just browsing Reddit
Like
for a
when
man
Chris
that
Chan
says
said
that
it?
he didn't
Wait,
get
did
his
Chris
job.
Chan say start digging in your butt? No way. I want to see that. What the fuck? That's awesome. Or do you mean the N-word? That was also awesome. I can't believe Chris Chan's fucking epic.
Through nepotism the second time, which is when this would have taken place, it doesn't really line up.
And like, this is kind of my whole career, right? My first job, I got through nepotism, 100%. My dad worked at Blizzard for 23 years. Then I came
Can
back
we
to
watch
Blizzard.
that? I want to watch that. YouTube. Chris Chan N-word. Chris Chan N-word compilation. Wait, no, YouTube has new like slur guidelines, I think. You're allowed to curse in the first like second of your video now, but you can't say like slurs. I literally watched one of the people I follow literally get like a terms of service violation for that. What the fuck? Oh, it kept playing the compilation.
in 2009, and I applied, not having his help in any way. I got the job.
More than that, though, we dive into the roommates' experiences and how they only ended up lasting about a week before putting their foot down and saying that Pirate needed to leave. But with all of that out of the way, just last two things. Number one, shout out to my parents and my brother and my fiance's parents as they grouped together and got this really cool neon sign, which unfortunately flickers. So I don't know if you guys will see it in another video, but it looks really sick. Special thank you to them. They got it as a surprise because the channel's been doing well recently. So thank you again to all of you if you're watching. And lastly, if you're new here, consider subscribing. It really helps out trying to hit 100K by the end of the year. We're about to hit 80, which is insane. But just that single press of a button helps me a great deal. And if you end up hating me later, it's just another button tap away. Also, liking the video helps out. So if you find the information in this video useful, give it a thumbs up, get other people to see it. But regardless of if you do any of that, thank you for watching. Nice to meet you. If you could just kind of give your name and then just kind of your experience with Twitch and just kind of your experience with Pirate, everything in between that you think would be relevant to what we're going to talk about today.
Hi, my name's Cynthia Hall. I go by Ludiana online. I am a lifelong artisan cosplayer. I worked for 5 years at Blizzard and then 8 years at Twitch. And I happen to work with Pirate Software at Blizzard as his
Shout out to my brother husband.
Really
so
quick,
true.
Number one, you share a last name. But number two, Wrangler. So what is that? What does that mean to be a Wrangler for someone during? So you said it was during Diablo 3 testing?
Yes. Basically,
dude, he tested for no way. Fucking Pirate Software was the tester for like one of the most buggy on-release games that Blizzard has ever put out. No fucking way. Dude, Diablo 3 had like a shitload of server bugs and online bugs whenever it came out, and auction house bugs. I think like duplication was like an easy thing to do. Oh my god. So he was a tester and he might not have even been good. Well, to be fair, testers usually aren't listened to. So maybe that's it. Maybe no people saw it, didn't care.
We share the same last name. That's why I don't mind sharing my last name. When I joined the company, they literally thought that we were related because I have a couple of years on him.
No way. She was an accidental Nepo hire.
With me coming in, I could potentially handle him and he would be less of a problem.
No way. He was a fucking problem child? Dude, this is awesome.
So this was a thing that I had to clarify like day one of me moving on to the team.
So this was, the assumption was, oh, okay, they're siblings. She can kind of tune.
Yes. And he'll be less of a problem because we're related and I could go
That's
tell
crazy.
Daddy.
That's really funny.
That's fucking hilarious.
So with this, him being a problem, now was that unique to Pirate or is that just to speak to every new person coming into the company?
That was speaking to him, and it was not that he was an HR violation problem. Don't get me wrong. He's very charismatic. He is easy to get along with socially. However, he was very neglectful of actual work. He was hard to rein in. He was hard to get to focus on anything important. Like he wanted to do what he wanted to do. And it wasn't like he was a jerk about it. Like I don't want to misconstrue that at all. I'm sure everybody has seen his streams. Like he pulls off the personality. You know, like he's nice to his coworkers. Yeah. He wanted to do what he wanted to do.
When we're talking about what's important for,
that kind of sucks, especially whenever you literally are working on like one of the most buggy products ever. Holy shit, dude. From what they said in the previous thing, he's like on Reddit a lot at work. And he just like, I guess just like wasn't doing his job at all. So maybe she's a bad Wrangler. No. That's just really fucking funny. Doesn't that just describe how he is now? Where even now he's like barely working on his stuff and instead he's like looking at Reddit or on Discord all day or streaming, or he's literally just playing games rather than making games that he like had a Kickstarter for.
Say, for instance, the Diablo 3 testing. So what was the important stuff that he needed to take care of? And then what was he doing alternatively?
So I was also the person who wrote all of the test cases. He was on the monsters team with me. So we're talking dealing with all the spawns in the game, all the boss testing.
Maybe that's also why he got ousted from off-brand games. Because that's another thing is he left off-brand games. He was the like manager of production, or not manager of production. I forget what he was, but he was basically, his role was to get sponsorships or like deal with other companies. And so I wonder if he was like literally just not doing that instead of the stop killing game stuff. Because also the people at Off-Brand Games were pro stop killing games. Which also congrats that that ended yesterday and it got almost 1.5 million signatures. So congrats to Ross Scott.
To do all the smoke tests whenever there were new builds, that just end to end, make a character run through to Skeleton King kill. Like that's just testing the builds. Whatever the task was for the day, it could just be spawning different monsters and testing their affixes to see how they perform. That easy. But he would just kind of create a character and idle in the client and redirect it.
Whoa.
That's literally what he did. He sat in front of me and I was assigning the tasks. So not only did I see the work he was not doing, I saw what he was doing instead the entire time.
Okay, so
dude, that's fucking
to clarify.
Holy shit.
He was redditing instead of doing his job, which was essentially he, instead of spawning in and just like running Skeleton King, which I know is like literally that first act, or just testing monster spawns, it was just him browsing Reddit.
Basically.
Jesus Christ. What a condemnation. Pirate Software needs to find better roommates. Oh my god. That's crazy. I also, like, I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy here. I would love to have even been given the chance to work at, like, Blizzard in its, like, golden era. And maybe because he's, like, a Nepo baby, right? Because there's, like, a thing where, like, Nepo babies don't, like, appreciate what they have. Maybe that's a part of it, because they usually grow up like hearing all this cool stuff, and then when they actually do it, they realize like, oh, this isn't like a heroic tale or whatever. This is literally just like what is going on? Oh, okay. And then whenever they actually have to do their job or whatever, they realize, oh, this is actually like really tedious 99% of the time, which is like all jobs, right? So maybe that's a part of it.
It was apparently too demanding of his time.
Or also just like, oh, they're never gonna fire me. My dad works here.
Was this a gradual onset of more Redditor Thor coming out? Okay.
This was a constant. And it was to the point where in QA, we had a maximum of 2 displays. Like that was just your kit. You had 2 displays. If you had 3, it was because you had a Mac for testing. That's it. He requested a 3rd display because he claimed he needed it for his bots when he started doing some automation testing. He just wanted it to have the extra space for Reddit, YouTube, mail. He just wanted the extra space.
Okay. Totally fair.
I wish I was Mimi. I am a huge slack ass, and I completely understand like the ADHD mentality of I just need stuff, and I vibe code. Like I get it. If you're compiling, if you're running bots, you probably want to do other stuff while something is running and just kind of observe the console. I get it. I know how these things work, but I'm saying like this dude was legit just ignoring the tasks at hand. We would sit like with the window divider between us.
What?
I would sit there watching my buddy, and he would watch me, and we would just be sitting there waiting for Jason to actually participate in the team tasks that we had been assigned.
And so why weren't you correcting it? Like if this was the entire way, like I would get fired if I was doing something like that.
Yeah. So that is the funny thing. I brought this up to my specialist who sat behind me. So it was specialist, me, Thor. He said, well, you could try to escalate it, but no one's going to do anything because I've tried to report it before. So I talked to my manager,
so even the previous Wrangler had trouble with Thor.
Like I talked to the manager over the project. And I was essentially told that no one is going to do anything because of who he is. And this has nothing to do with Joey Ray.
She should have been like, I'm his sister.
I'm also friends with Joey Ray.
Get rid of him, even though she already said that she wasn't. That would have been awesome.
Okay, so like I've had direct interactions. I know him well enough to say he would absolutely not do anything to help Jason. Like he is not somebody who spoke to get him rehired. But here's how nepotism actually works, which Jason also doesn't understand. It does not look good on your future at Blizzard if you mess with an executive's son, period. Everybody knows who Jason is. If you write him up, if you fire him for misconduct or otherwise, people are going to know you did it. They're not going to know that anything was actually going on. They're just gonna know you were the guy that fired Joey Ray's son, and your career is pretty much toast because everybody in the games industry knows.
So
each
is that
other,
why
too.
she got fired? Is she the person who like wrote him up and then was like, oh shit, I can't actually do anything here. And now the CEOs are like, hey, you fucked with this guy's son, so you're gonna have to be put down now.
So who's
Jesus
going to
Christ.
actually do anything because Jason's doing nothing? Nobody. They're just going to let him do what he's going to do. And that's exactly what I was told. And that's exactly why Jason was allowed to form his hacks team, which is actually just exploits testing. He was allowed to do whatever he wanted to do because nobody would course correct him.
That's insane.
Now, what year was this when he came on for the Diablo?
That was
3? Was this
like
the first time he was hired in?
2010.
This was when he came back. I believe this was, I think, 2011.
Okay, I
so
got
this is
close.
the second round of coming in. You said, to the best of your knowledge, it was as soon as he got hired back in, he was acting exactly like that. He was not.
Yeah.
Okay. With that knowledge, I also just kind of want to touch on, so you say that he kind of created that exploitation team, not because there was a requirement for it, but just because he would not be course corrected to do anything else. And the reason I kind of bring this up, I'm not trying to make Thor look bad intentionally, but I'm targeting the way that you had brought this up.
Okay, you're bringing Quinn, you're bringing on his former roommate who has like a lot of like tea to spill. And you're like, I'm not trying to make him look bad or anything. And it's like, come on.
Exploit team. It wasn't because he was the best to do it. It's because he's the one that wanted to do it.
My understanding is it's what he wanted to do, and he presented himself as the best candidate to do it. And I am not going to pretend to know the inner workings of how it came to be because I was not part of those conversations at all. So I don't know if he actually formed the team or if the QA managers formed the team, including him. It's weird calling it a hacks team. It's really not hacking. Like, it is a focused automation testing team. That's really what it was.
Use
like,
bots to test the reported bugs and exploits.
Yeah, it was automation testing.
Okay. With that, I think we got a good understanding.
So he didn't even actually work. Okay. So basically, if you didn't Sigma behavior, Sigma behavior. Dude, I got so much shit for that it's stuck in my brain. Sigma behavior. Because in like the last video I did on Pirate Software, the Lady Decade video, I uploaded it, and in the intro, there's a part where I say Sigma behavior because he refuses to wear shoes and leaves a snail trail, and I say Sigma behavior. People thought I was being like unironic and being like, dude, that's so fucking cool that he leaves Sigma behavior. Some commenter got like a bunch of likes on his fucking comment for that. I was like, dude, what the hell is wrong with you?
Of what that was. I've kind of touched on that nepotism bit myself too, and was like, well, it's not just, oh, you know, his dad, you know, is like up here. It's like, well, it's not that. It's a very, you don't see it, you feel it. That's it. And the person who's, you know, getting it is not going to notice that. So it's interesting. I'm glad we got a bit more insight on that. You guys knew each other clearly as coworkers. Was there anything like, did you guys spend time playing video games or anything like that?
Oh yeah, geez. A couple things. So video games, there was actually a charity event on campus. It's an extra.
Oh, right. I remember what I was going to say now. Yeah. So basically in computer science, there's a few things that you can just like automate the task away. You can never really do so 100%, but there's some tasks you can absolutely do that are just like, yeah, a bot could do this, so I'm gonna make a bot to do it. That also means that frees up a lot of your time to like do other things, and that's what a lot of people don't get. Especially a lot of people that make bots, is like, it is a one and done thing. It's like a product almost. And so probably what Thor wanted to do is make a bot, be super respected for making a bot, and never have to like actually work, which is not a respectable way about going about things, especially if you're trying to have an ongoing payment or be paid, you know, like a job. I get it? I did. Oh, fuck it. Fuck off. This game is really cool. It has like the worst power-up placement. Anyway. So I imagine that's what Thor wanted to do. And then like, okay, I made a bot to automate this. It's like, all right, well, time for your next job. And he's like, what next job? I just automated away a year of work. And it's like, all right, well, thanks for automating it. We still have 2 more years of work to get through, and you're a part of it.
Charity that every year as Team Zerg, unofficially, Blizzard would put together our own team for donations to raise money for Children's Hospital of Orange County. And we would play games on campus for 24 hours straight. Pirate just happened to participate in this. I was on his team for a league tournament, and he screamed at our team for apparently not gearing correctly to counter the other team, because we were just that bad, when it's not like we were losing so severely, because we all played league regularly. It was not that big of a deal, and we're all sleep deprived. It was very early in the morning after an overnight of playing games, and we're like,
well, I wonder if
seriously,
that's okay. So this is one of the things that's like an overnight of playing games. This is Blizzard we're talking about. I'm pretty sure that's literally like a code word for like, yeah, we had to pull an all-nighter at Blizzard to get work done. Because Blizzard has a ton of like, they're not like a giant studio, but they're extremely efficient. And the way they do that is they get people to work like 16 hours a day at like reasonable efficiency. So there's like a pretty decent chance that that is just like a code word for like, and it doesn't want to piss off Blizzard. Yeah.
you are raging at everybody, like our entire team. He was just yelling across the floor at everybody.
It's a charity event, correct?
It was a children's charity event. And we're like, wow, we all play League, but man, like we usually only experience this stuff in League.
I wonder if his reaction to that is explicitly like why Heroes of the Storm is made to be like a relatively easy game, is because like, hey, we've noticed that a lot of people get really angry at League of Legends, so we're gonna make a game where you can't get angry. And then Heroes of the Storm turns out to be like one of the most toxic MOBAs.
Just like played League with each other at work, but this was our first time actually playing with him, especially at work, you know, so that was a whole new experience, and the last time literally any of us played any games with him. And ironically, I actually have something here that I wanted to show you. So
Okay, so she has a play nice, play
they
fair.
give us
Your commitment to play nice feat 24 hours with your coworkers enabled young children with medical issues to have a fair chance at life. Signed someone.
like these
Signed Bobby
little
Kotick.
cards whenever we do cool
Not
things
signed Bobby Kotick.
at
I can't read
Blizzard.
that.
And this was related to the charity event that was like thanking me for playing nice with my coworkers, and I'm like, oh wow, he got one of these too. So yeah, I was kind of floored when I was going through some of my work stuff. Before that had happened, and not too long after he had joined the team, I had a roommate who urgently had to move out. She had a family emergency. She
Sure.
could no longer like stay in the apartment. And I was like, that's cool. You know, I'll find another roommate. Panicking. Pirate joined the team, and he apparently urgently needed to move out of his dad's house for some reason. So anyways, I was like, hey, so I barely know you. And of course I asked some people around, you know, like,
Yeah,
so
so
is
that's
this guy,
another
like, a
thing.
psycho?
That's like one of the things that I have noticed about Blizzard, is that despite like insane working conditions, despite like being an incredibly profitable studio, and maybe this is due to Activision, because I think that's whenever it got really bad, is the purchase by Activision. But like people are like incredibly underpaid for the area. So like you have, I think up until like senior twos, rooming with other Blizzard employees to save money. And I think even like more frugal seniors would still room with other people to save money, because like California is expensive, especially like Orange County. And it pretty much always has been, at least from what I understood from the the Warcraft diary, I think John Stats talks about like barely making enough to not go into debt, but like borderline most months, and also like working insane hours. And so Blizzard is like not a like I respect like their entire like commitment and their like community and their ability to make like some of the greatest like video games ever in like StarCraft 2's case, I guess. Kind of World of Warcraft, I'm not a huge fan. But like goddamn, they torture their fucking people over there. I would not want to work at Blizzard. Except for during their golden age, whenever they seem to pay people at least the bare minimum.
You know, like, is this something reasonable? You know, is he gonna trash my place if I ask him, like, you know, if he wants to rent this room from me? Because it was a full, like, bedroom plus his own private bathroom. Like, it was basically a split apartment setup. So it was ideal for renting and sharing. Like, it wouldn't have been weird with Nicole coming over or anything. Like, it would have been fine. And I knew Nicole as well, and she was perfectly normal human being.
Nicole being, sorry, who?
Nicole, I believe, is the girl he ended up marrying.
Oh, okay.
His ex-wife. Yeah.
Okay. Just to confirm, so the timeline events, that charity thing happened a bit after, so you guys had already been rooming together, and then you did not know him prior to him going to work with you.
No.
Okay.
Not at all.
Cool.
Like, I barely knew who Joey Ray was at the time. Told Pirate, I'm like, hey, are you really looking to rent a place? Because, you know, I had this room open. So he ended up taking me up on the offer. He also
that
had
was a
cat,
mistake.
And I was like, cat non-destructive, right? You know, like, I have furniture and stuff because, you know, this is fully furnished. And he was like, yeah, totally non-destructive. I'm like, cool, because I love cats. I have no animals. Fine fit. Great. We're on the same team, same overtime schedule. Amazing.
So he ends up being your roommate. It sounds really good. You know, every bare minimum's met, not crazy girlfriend, a cat that he's saying is not destructive. How does that end up pulling out? How long were you guys roommates for?
It took days for him to start screaming at people on Eve.
Oh my god.
Eve Online.
Yes.
Okay.
The cat, that's totally non-destructive, straight up destroyed one of the chairs within the
Holy
first week.
shit.
And because it was patent leather, like the polyurethane stuff, he offered to tape it up for me, not replace it, and also tried to make it out like the cat never did anything to the chair, even though it was like raked and like cheese gratered up.
Holy shit,
The
dude.
cat scratched the shit out of the chair. There's no
Scratched the shit out of the chair.
right. You can't do that any other way. Yeah.
Yeah. There was no way around it. Pretty much any time that I
This is literally just tea spilling, and I am all here for it. But this is literally all just tea spilling. Like, yeah, Pirate Software sucks. I know he sucks. It is funny though that like, so like nothing has been like really corroborated. So like between Pirate Software sucks and the couple of allegations from there, and then this lady, and they're like completely different relationships, right? So like, there's probably not going to be that much corroboration, but it is funny that there's so many like disparate negative things about Pirate Software that aren't like related. There's like a lot of negative stuff about him, but they're like completely different claims made by people who like don't interact with each other. And so it could just be that Pirate Software is that like crazy of a person that he's like secretly like almost like a Christian figure behind the scenes. But like, nobody's corroborated that he tracks mud everywhere. Nobody's corroborated that he's like, I've never even heard that he's had a cat before, but I guess that's like pre what's it called? Oh, okay. That's pre them moving together. Or that, sorry, not pre. That's pre like Heartbound, right? And this is like kind of the period we have like the least amount of information for. So yeah.
The kitchen, all the dishes
Thought I had more to say.
everywhere. Like the pans, still food in them on the stove, shit everywhere.
Ew.
Countertops, everything, everywhere. Like, it was not disgusting sty, but it was very just a fucking mess. Okay. And when you're working overtime, you just want to come home, make a quick meal or whatever, especially on weekends when you're not doing overtime. You don't want to have to clean up after your roommate.
The thing is
function
she makes
in
it
your own
sound like it's
apartment.
optional.
So
It was not
just, like,
optional there.
trying to be
It
gentle,
absolutely was
nudgy,
not
like,
optional.
hey, dude, could you like be a bit better about putting away leftovers and stuff? You know, like trying to be diplomatic about the whole thing. And I'm like, the fucking combination of things, right? You know, like the not letting me sleep.
This game is
the
actually
cat
starting to give me a headache. I
destruction,
might
the
switch
mess
off.
of it all.
That was happening within the first week, all of these things
Once I
that
beat
you're
this
listing.
level, I'll
First
switch
week.
off.
Okay, how
And I'm
long
like-
did this go on for?
Well, this made me more suspicious about what else was going on. And I'm not a privacy invader, but he had left the door open to his bathroom. And I like.
No way. No way. Is she the person that posted on Kiwi Farms? This might be the lady that posted on Kiwi Farms about Pirate Software's bathroom. Holy shit, the dots just connected. Because on Kiwi Farms, there was a person, most likely a lady, who was an ex-roommate of Pirate Software, who had like a fixation on how disgusting the bathroom was and the weird shit in it. This might be the same lady. Oh my god. I'm gonna have to look at Kiwi Farms after this. Holy shit.
Just looked inside because it was in the hallway. It was like a hallway.
If she brings
to
up
go
what I
through
think
to
she's
the
going to bring up, I
bathroom,
think
and
that
then
confirms
his
it for me
bedroom,
that
which
it's the
door
same
was closed,
person.
So I did not go in there. And then my bedroom. So like, I just turned on the hall light and I peeked in there, and the place was a fucking sty. He had never put up a shower curtain in the bathroom. There was like ashy stuff everywhere, like gray ash kind of looking.
Okay,
spots
we're getting
everywhere, including,
closer.
like in the shower, on the floors, on the countertops. The toilet was. It had been a fucking week, and I could not understand the state of
All
things.
right,
Let
that's
me
probably
just
not
say
the
that
same
I was very
person.
concerned. Okay, and the sum of it all, I was like, this is not gonna work out, my guy. So I just like had a talk with him, and I was like, hey, look, like, this is not a thing between us because you're a cool dude, but like with the cat who said non-destructive, already destroyed a chair, this is not gonna work out. Like, I'm pretty sure that's straight how I played it, but I'm like, the sum of all things, I do not need this apartment destroyed. You know, it's my deposit, my name on this primarily because I was a primary resident, and I do not need destruction of
That's
property.
funny.
On my
I am
record
probably
or
not
any
getting the
of that.
deposit back
So,
because of
like,
my
I
girlfriend's
could not
cat
take
either.
that chance. He inelegantly took it as a all right, fine, I'll move out kind of thing. He did get out of there within the next month. He never paid me back for the chair, by the way. Never did anything about that. And when he finally did move out, I wish I had saved pictures of the state of his room. He had cleaned nothing, so I had to clean everything by hand. There was like, I don't know what on the walls in his bedroom, and you're just gonna have to like take my word for this. I don't know if it was snot or something else. Just,
No
like,
way,
wiped
he's
here and there on the
Asmongolding.
walls,
He's
and
wiping
more
his
of the,
fucking
like,
gum blood on the
rim-green
side of the walls
stuff,
in his
just
fucking
spots
apartment.
and things. It's very clearly not like smoke ash because there was no odor of it or anything.
That is just strange. That sounds like a cryptid.
It was very strange.
Yeah, totally.
right? It was disgusting. Like, I was masked up and gloved up and everything for all of this because, like, holy, like,
Holy.
oh, gross. Lesson learned. Don't get guys as roommates, especially when you're a girl who gets the icks from this kind of thing.
So that's a lot of that personal stuff. Now, I think that
Okay. To be fair, I would probably be pretty grossed out if my roommate was anything like Thor. That sounds kind of insane. Fuck, where do I go now? Does it say where? Is that it? But like, yeah, I don't know.
that is relevant. I do think so. This was what, 10 years ago now? 15?
Forever. Yeah. It's quite some.
So I'm not, again, this isn't to dismiss that.
It
That
was
sounds
there.
absolutely horrific. You know, this was some of that old stuff, but I really appreciate getting to hear it. If you have any information, like whether it be like even if you have text messages or emails or anything else to kind of corroborate that time, it'd be awesome. If you don't, that's, you know, we're just taking your testimony as testimony. And I think it's just good to know, have some of that context getting into
Okay.
it.
I'll
Not
send you
going this
over
one.
some of the screenshots that I also sent to some of my other coworkers, because like
Okay. So it is blurred out. Well, I guess I'm just driving. So when I first met you, I was all redacted, and now I'm getting to know you better. I'm all redacted, and today I was so tired, I was all redacted. DX. And then it says, I slept so long, then played World of Warcraft and League all day as Heimerdinger, and chilled hard while healing turrets. His passive is so amazing. This is too small for me to read. And then somebody else said, define irony. Anna calling the apartment manager irresponsible because he's not making himself easily available. Also, she told me to keep $50 and pay her back $450 back from her deposit. If she does sign off today, she gets back all, but the $247 she owes for renting half of the month through the end of the day. Why does she think rent is free? Why did I wait on her instead of getting you in there first? Fuck my life. By the way, are you signing today? If so, the manager may not have your key. It's supposed to be Anna's when she never signed off. I have a spare key up in the apartment if he'll let you in. There should be a Lowe's envelope on top of my big dresser on the left wall by the closet. I'll have 2 keys either in or on it. One for the apartment, one for the pool. If not signing today, no worries. Or if you want, bring stuff after work. Tell me if you'd want to come right after work and I'll turn down possible overtime. And I'll give you the keys when you arrive. I'll bring the keys in for when you deposit me rento, otherwise, even if you pay me before signing. Just remember that I'm starting prorated rent on the day you sign or pay the deposit, whichever comes first. You'll have the key in residency if you pay before signing, since we have a 3-day visitor policy, meaning you can start moving before signing if you're going in on Saturday. I'm TLDRing at this point, just trying to say, place is yours, let me know when signing, and give me the deposit at work or some such. Don't forget to get all your parking registration stickers and clickers when you sign. I'm going to handle it this weekend, and yeah, your friend is a very odd view on reality.
Like, when all the pirate stuff.
Oh, I owe you 71 more bucks? No. As I said up front, you pay when you move in for a full month. Since you haven't stayed a full month in October, the time for signing to end of month is when you are charged November 1st. It's like flip-flopping the rent. Full months for partial month stay, partial month for full month stay. This is what all apartments do. You owe me $200 for the current month. Rent is paid before the time you stay there. So the partial month, $371, is due before November 1st as November's rent. What you're paying now is for October.
Like, really started.
If it's his first time getting an apartment, that's like understandable. That is kind of confusing.
Stirring. Like, we started sending stuff to each other. One of our other.
Wanted to inform you I'll be moving out of the place on the 26th. I've now received confirmation on the new place. Thanks for the notice. I haven't been saying anything because I didn't want to force you out. I wasn't sure how long it would take you to find the right place. I know the terms seem bad, but I really didn't have any issues with you personally. I wasn't trying to kick you to the curb. Don't forget that utility bills will be in for December soon. My chair needs to be replaced.
He's another person.
So to be fair, like, I think most people will be like, oh, you're even asking to pay him for like utility bills. That kind of like blows. But like, he's also like a pro gamer. He has like probably like a pretty tricked out setup with like running at the time whatever the best GPU is, like a 2080. No, this would be, well, like a 980, maybe like a dual 980 build, or 890 or 790 or whatever the fuck. 780. So he's taking up like a shitload of electricity, and he also has 2 people showering.
That played League with Jason.
Okay,
at
I'm
one
done.
Point.
This
Apparently
game's
also
giving me a
got
headache.
raged at. But this guy is a master troll. This guy was also one of my best friends. Would print out a photo of Edward Cullen's face and tape it to the bottom of Pirate's mouse, so that whenever he would come back to his desk, he would wiggle his mouse to try to wake his PC, and he just couldn't wake his PC, so he'd have to flip his mouse over and be greeted with Edward Cullen's face. And you could just hear him scream across the floor.
It's good to know. So this wasn't like, you know, he swooned everybody with his charisma. Because, like, I'm not going to lie, like, the internet understands that. A lot of people are, you know, he was in the good graces of most of the internet literally just a year ago. But you're saying, so even with that, and I think it makes sense based on his quote unquote work ethic or lack thereof, there were people that already were like, he was just kind of irritating.
And I feel like this is why a lot of people aren't really talking about him, because like there's several camps of us. Either people just legitimately didn't know him at the time, didn't care to know him, don't remember him, aren't even aware he exists at this time. He was on no one's radar. There's no reason for him to be on anyone's radar right now. They have no clue who he is. There's people like me who had to work directly with him and are just,
I mean,
so
it sounds like he didn't even build a name for himself while he was there, because he wasn't like doing anything.
Raged that they don't want to talk about him. There are his few friends who like may speak positively about him, but we don't really hear anything from them. But then there's also the few people who want to speak out, but they don't because they're afraid of the repercussions. And I feel like that's the majority of the people that I know too, because games industry is so small. A lot of people are still in games, so they don't want to talk about these things because, again, you know, like they don't want things to come back to them.
Is it even a matter of, so does Jason's dad, does he have this like undying love and adoration for his son that is going to impact someone's work history? Is it just the fact that you would speak about someone's son?
No. So here's the thing about Joey Ray. I am not in his DMs at all about any of this because I respect him and I know, like, at least in the past, about how he's felt about this thing. His entire mentality has been, if you have a problem with Jason, take it up with Jason. Like, he doesn't want to deal with any of that. He's not the kind of person who's like gonna come to his rescue.
That sounds like the healthiest way for nepotism to be dealt with. That sounds like, I mean, Joey Ray sounds like, yeah, you shouldn't be going to me because that's how you propagate this. So I guess I was more asking, like, the people that shied away, is it simply because they knew that Thor was, you know, the son of him, or was it because like there were also consequences because he was was he protecting Thor in any step, or was it just the fact that they were, you know, father and son?
A lot of people that aren't speaking up aren't doing it because they're afraid of Thor's followers. Actually, they're afraid of internet repercussions and internet people coming for them.
It has nothing to do with the dad.
Like, legitimately,
okay.
has nothing to do with his dad.
Okay, yeah. It's the same person. Yeah, it's the same person from January of this year. This lady is a Kiwis farmer. Probably. This is fucking crazy. It's her. She's the Kiwi farmer. Let me show you guys what I'm talking about. Change that to the Kiwi farms. So this person, spoiler context, not sure. I found some this is her apartment. I found some apartment photos on the thing that can be confirmed. The chair. It's the chair. And that's the other side of it, which honestly, that's a good fucking chair. His cat destroying that fucking sucks. And this is the bathroom. This is why I was like, oh, she's talking about the bathroom. That's got to be it. And I didn't realize the toilet. He didn't clean up after himself. Dude. So let's read this. The phones? Context? I should have known this shit dick had a thread. I can't seem to escape his dumbass. Part of my derailment for dropping some information. He was my roommate until I asked him to GTFO because he destroyed the property. I wonder if this person was reached out to by by Quintheo specifically, and that's how she got found out. Dude, my autism knows no bounds. Apparently neither does hers. He was never important. Yeah, it's the same thing. She's kind of repeating what she said in the thread, but in more detail here. So good on her. So she's interacting with Null, the owner. No way. She's based. She's actually based. Yeah, when I first reported him, I was told that others had been also reporting him to management, but they won't do anything because of Joey Ray. As far as I know, he changed teams on Diablo 3 to focus on hacks after he had insisting help to prevent more of the same dupe shit we've been seeing. It wasn't being done as punishment. Nepo babies got their way. Dude. I'm still in disbelief that I know that.
Dad, because his dad, like, especially anybody that knew him, like at Blizzard while they were there, and those of us like who know him a little bit.
Oh, also she brings up the Edward Cullen thing in there.
Outside of Blizzard, he's normal. He's just a dude. Like, he happens to have been an executive who worked at Blizzard forever. He's a cool guy. Don't get me wrong, but he's not somebody who's going to.
It looks like
mess with
she's
people.
exclusively interacted on Kiwi Farms, like just for Jason Thor, and like stopped in February probably.
Him. He is not like that. He would never.
No way! No way! Ooh. Oh shit! I wish literally anyone else was online so I could scream at this too. Hey, where was it? She oh my god, she gave a winning post to like this that, or this person is like impersonating the Kiwi's farmer. I guess that's also a possible situation. You will never be a real. She reacted to this with a winning like star post. You will never be a real indie game dev. You have no coding skills, no time management, and no creativity. You are a homosexual furry twisted by nepotism and narcissism into a crude mockery of a genius digital craftsman. All the validation you get is two-faced and half-hearted. Behind your back, your colleagues loathe you. Your father is disgusted and ashamed of you. Your friends laugh at your ghoulish behavior behind closed doors. Gamers are utterly repulsed by you. Thousands of years of Kickstarter failures have allowed them to sniff out frauds with incredible efficiency. Even YouTube shorts with go viral look uncanny and unnatural to anyone over the age of 14. You will never be happy. You wrench out a fake smile every morning and tell yourself that everyone loves you. But deep inside, you feel the depression slowly heating up, ready to cook you alive like an unattended ferret. Relieved that they'll no longer... Oh, eventually it'll be too much to bear. You'll hire some Russians to finish your game and plunge heartbound into the cold abyss of the Steam algorithm. Your last few fans will find it heartbroken at the overwhelmingly negative reviews, but relieved that they no longer have to wait 8 more years of COVID excuses. The only lasting impact of your game will be the heartbound, what went wrong video essays, and more of them will mention Maldavia's fig tree than you could ever hope to copyright strike. Your AstroTurf popularity will decay and return you to the sea of unremarkable 15-minute of famers, and all that will remain is your legacy for a pile of shovelware that was unmistakably made by a fraud skinwalking as a genius indie dev. This is your fate. This is what you chose. There is no turning back. Happy 300th page, Jason. And, yeah, she liked that. She gave it a winning star.
anything like that.
I just wanted to include that last part there because I think it's important to make a distinction that it wasn't like, you know, Joey Ray going out of his way to smite down anybody that would talk badly or, you know, report his son. I just really wanted to make sure that I was representing him in the same way that she was describing him. And just to reiterate on a final note, like, yeah, this stuff happened back in like 2011. Now, Pirate was like 24, 25 at around this time. So I still think, you know, brain was pretty well developed at this point. You know, maybe he has changed over the last, like, truly over a decade now. I think probably the most significant part of this,
I think it's pretty much guaranteed that Quinthio found this person on Kiwi Farms and like reached out to them. Because yeah, it's bad.
Video is just kind of pushing back on his claims that he didn't get the second job at Blizzard through nepotism when it looks very clearly, based off of her testimony, like that's exactly what happened. But I'm curious to hear what you guys think. Let me know in the comment section below, and look for a Mudahar video coming out tomorrow. That's it. I'll see you guys later. Adios. Peace. Bye.
That's fucking crazy. I didn't expect that in the slightest. To basically be like rereading Kiwi Farm stuff that I read like months ago. Or rewatching stuff that I read months ago. But that's kind of unfortunate, I guess, that there wasn't more new stuff. And I just like I also don't think there was much to say because it is just spilling tea, right? The only new thing I think was the like that he had like weird shit on his walls. I wonder if people have seen this and are posting about it. Oh yeah, people on Kiwi Farms already know. It's really unfortunate that the photos were not included. So somebody put in the new information. Everyone thought he was his sister because they had the same last name. She was hired as his tard wrangler because he did no management and browsed Reddit all day. His room and bathroom in their apartment was a pigsty with white fluid on the walls. People are afraid to speak because of Mauld's threads, not his dad. The cum walls. Oh shit, was it cum? They were painted white. If only Boing Boing took swab samples, archive everything. So true. Alright, we're done with Kiwi Farms. That's crazy. My mind is blown. My mind is absolutely blown right now. I just feel like we haven't. That is like probably the closest we've gotten in recent times to a Kiwi Farms mention since the Keffels drama. I wish she didn't show her name and self in the yearbook. I could at Quinthio on Twitter and be like, hey, is this Boing? Can you confirm? But I think it's already pretty well known. And there's no point in asking, really. There's nothing to get out of it or like getting an official confirmation. Alright. I think I have one more video to watch tonight, and then we'll take a break if I can find anything else from Pirate Software. So this is Slop News Network.
All right, let's start diving.
This is DRM and code reviews.
Into the DRM analysis for
Anthony Fantano, stop staring at me. I kind of want another game to play, but I don't want to play anything. I feel like I'm going to get a headache from anything too colorful. but I want something that's like visually interesting as well. Those are like indirect fights with each other. Anything kind of like washed out that might still be okay. Incision was really good. Incision did not give me a headache. I wish I had another episode. Playing Halo on the original graphics might not be too bad, actually. Europa, nah. I could just put it on an eye patch. I could just go make an eye patch out of toilet paper and tape and then just like deal. Or take painkillers. Oh, Metaphor. Never played Metaphor. So that's also seems pretty colorful. Don't have anything to play. I have so many games downloaded, but nothing to play. Is there a city builder? I don't think that would be fun to watch. I'll just play Hearts of Iron 4.
Pirate Software's 2 games, Champions of Breakfast and Heartbound. Let's start with some information about the 2 games and clear up some misinfo too. Both Champions of Breakfast and Heartbound were created in the Game Maker engine. Champions of Breakfast is the game Jason claims has the unpiratable DRM.
I tried to find a way so that our game wouldn't get pirated because it'd be easy to pirate it. This is your save file. First start the game up, it actually checks what achievements you have and it unlocks powers based on your achievements. This is actually the save file for the character. So you can't pirate it because you can never use the achievements. It made it unpiratable, which is deeply hilarious.
So as you saw, essentially the DRM for Champions of Breakfast.
What? So your Steam achievements are directly tied? Okay, I have watched this video before, but I also know there's so many ways to get around Steam achievements, especially if you program them poorly. So like Victoria 3, for example, was intentionally programmed its Steam achievements poorly because they wanted it just to be like easy to read. You can read the code, whatever. And one of the people I follow got like a community. They got like they put their guide on Steam and they got like a strike. It's like one of the weirdest Steam strikes I've ever seen. Budgun, who's like my little Victoria 2 Spurg that I watch. And he did a video where you could literally just input in the text document, unlock Steam achievement. That's kind of what I would expect from Pirate Software. But he didn't actually do that, so we'll see.
Is the Steam achievements acting as a quasi-save file. The Heartbound DRM is the following code snippet that Jason has shown live on stream multiple times. Now, recently, a lot of people have been posting that Heartbound has always online DRM. That is false. Heartbound does not have always online DRM. The DRM approach does not require online connectivity to function. It'll work just fine with Steam in offline mode. Jason has told the truth in regards to this matter, so he doesn't deserve the online DRM hate he's getting currently. Second, the Steam achievements acting
Yeah, that was probably like Mandela affected just from even saying that it had DRM, so people assumed that it always had to be online. There's a lot of misinformation about DRM out there just because people hate it so much. It's less that they're willing to just make up random shit about it. It's more like, oh, all DRM is the worst one. Because that's kind of just what you come to expect, especially when dealing with like AAA people.
His save file is only in Champions of Breakfast. Heartbound does not have any dependence on Steam achievements. These are 2 completely separate DRM solutions. Now, let's start analyzing the Heartbound DRM code. The important variable we need to pay attention to within the code is on line 3, the global.piratedGame variable that is set to 1. Like the variable name suggests, this is what dictates whether or not the game is considered pirated within the game itself. A value of 1 implies the variable has a truthy value. Normally for this type of thing, we'd use a boolean and use true and false as the variable values directly, but we'll leave that aside for now and touch on it again.
Also, part of this, I get to learn more stuff about coding. Because I do have a coding job, technically. But I also can't say that it's, like, requires any skill. So it's nice to learn more stuff.
And in the code review section. If we continue and
Why
move
did
on
it
to
go
line
black?
5, we can see the DRM process goes as
Hello?
follows. First, we check to see if Steam is initialized. Once if it's confirmed to be true, the game is considered legitimate, hence line 7. Then at line 13, we check to see if the Steam client is actually a
What was
Steam
it
emulation
showing?
or cracked. The double equal sign means we're checking to see if the value of this function is equal to the ASCII string IGG Games. IGG Games is an unsafe piracy group, and they use their name when they package their crack.
Oh, so he's literally only checking for like public piracy sites. That's it. It's like barely a DRM. It's only useful against the most common, what the fuck? Okay.
Steam games. Then we set the game to pirated on line 14 if we confirm it's an IGG Games cracked copy of the game. Now we move on to line 16 where we check to see if there's a bogus account ID. We also on line 19 check to see if we have a known Steam app ID that is commonly used in cracks or playing pirated games or mods. If either one of these checks end up being true, we also set the pirated game variable to true. Now, in order for us to break this DRM, the first two problems we have to deal with is the function call of Steam initialized and the Steam DRM that would be included with the app.
I know I ought not to leave, especially after such a large break, but I am gonna go get an ice cold glass of Coca-Cola. Coke Zero. Sorry about that. I am back. Yeah. No, I do like learning coding and looking at coding. I wish I wish I had better commitment skills. Because there's a lot of coding stuff that I want to do, and I'll start it. I'll get everything set up and start. And I have so many like commitment issues whenever it comes to anything larger than like a week for coding. At least for personal stuff. With my job stuff, I think I'm okay. At least okay. But we have like this one neurotic guy at work. He's extremely skilled. So we have this one neurotic guy at work who is always looking for better ways to do something. I think a lot of coders are actually really neurotic. In my experience, I've dealt with a lot of people who it's like, if it's not my way, then I'm going to take it and fix it for you. And it's like, the project's done. I finished it. It's functional. It works. And then they're like, I'm like turning it in. And the guy is like, actually, I have a much better way of doing it. And he absolutely does. But it feels like he takes a lot of credit for it. But I do respect him. He is a great fucking coder.
Actual game. Steam DRM is Steam's own added-on DRM. It is completely separate from the Heartbound DRM we're discussing. Due to legal reasons, I'm not going to directly show what programs to use or how to bypass Steam functions in Steam DRM, but I'll explain a bit about the process and how secure using Steam functions as a form of DRM is.
I actually have no idea about cracking Steam games. I don't pirate games. I emulate some games, but I don't pirate at all.
First, let's talk about the Steam DRM. The Steam DRM has been
44
well
fucked
understood
up
by
the
cracking
start
groups
button.
for a very long time. It's so well understood and commonly cracked, there are multiple tool sets built for it and guides, to the point even non-technical users can use them to crack and distribute their own Steam games. This is called home riffs, and this is one of the reasons there's so many Steam games that have day one cracks floating around. Next, we have the Steam functions that we saw in the Heartbound DRM code that we need to address for the Champions of Breakfast DRM. For this issue, let's talk about Steam client emulators. These are programs that mimic some legitimate Steam client functions and fake some of the other other functionality you expect in the legitimate Steam client.
Okay.
There are numerous Steam client emulators, and I'm not going to touch any of these emulators, but take my word for it that they can easily get through the Steam DRM and the initialized function check. And they can also mimic the Steam Achievement API, meaning not only can the Steam DRM be bypassed by using these emulators, but they would also allow you to crack and play Champions of Breakfast, plus you'd basically have a save game editor along with the two. While we're on the topic of Champions of Breakfast, I was curious how long it took for the game with the unpiratable DRM to be cracked after it was released, and
Like,
this is what I
what,
found.
minutes?
1 day and 17 hours after the game was
Yeah.
released on Steam, there was already a
That's like the limit of my knowledge almost, is just that like games get cracked almost instantly. I know like a few websites because I have friends that pirate a shitload. And they like almost exclusively play pirated games. So I know there's like Fit Girl, and there's like one or two other really big ones, but that's about it.
home rip floating around. If you don't consider home rips to be valid, I also checked to see if any known Where's scene groups had a crack for the game. The scene group Simplex
I don't need to pirate games. I play Hoi 4 way too much.
has also had a crack for the game floating around for years at this point, so that unpiratable DRM has been soundly defeated multiple times just after launch. Now, with those problems addressed, let's return to the Heartbound DRM code and examine the last problem we need to figure out how to break, namely the IGG games check and the various ID checks setting the pirated game variable to true. In order to break this, we'll need to do some reverse engineering. To make this reverse engineering and cracking process smoother to explain, I've copied over this snippet of code into a tiny C++ program. The DRM I have in it is in the left pane between lines 13 to 51. Now, you might notice I have a couple functions here between lines 15 to 33. Those are just placeholders. Due to legal reasons, I'm not including the real Steam SDK or functions in my tiny program, or including it within the
Understandable.
actual reverse engineering process. Since I already explained how they can be defeated, it's not important to include them in the program. Back to our code, you can see the rest of the DRM matches up basically one-to-one with the DRM snippet we have from Heartbound. Last line to note, I run the DRM check here on line 108 just after the program starts. The rest of my program code doesn't matter too much. I'm basically just using the Windows native Win32 API to create a simple window
Okay.
that will have a red background if the game is pirated, and if it's a legitimate copy, the background will be green.
Okay, so what's the code? So doing like include Windows handling, include string handling, edit password, edit button, some editing stuff, some brush stuff. I assume that's for the coloring. He's getting the Steam game personal name. See if it's pretending it's a IGG games. It's just an automated stuff. It's just a basic function. Checks the DRM, which is just what he's already doing. That's what we already saw. Callback Windows proc. Calling some parameters in order to create brushes. Switching a message, return 0. Some of it's cut off, I think. Oh no, it's the same. Okay. Creating a rectangle here. I don't know if you guys can see my cursor, but it's like in the middle of the middle photo. He's creating a painted rectangle. Erasing the background, depending on which one it is. Destroy the brushes so they don't continue. Using Win API to use DRM check, that's the Steam initialized, if it's a pirated game or not. Prompts for password? Password prompt class. I'm actually not sure what that section is doing.
Also, just like the Heartbound DRM code, we start the program assuming to be in a pirated state. Now, I compiled the little app we have, and we have an exe we can run. Let's pretend we don't have the actual source code and just have the exe. So how do we modify the exe and beat the DRM? In order to modify the exe, we'll need to use what is known as a dissembler plus a debugger. I'll be using Ollie Debug,
Okay.
which is a very old and outdated x86 debugger. If someone was doing actual reverse engineering these days,
You would use Ghidra. I know, because I did it. My final college project was on data deobfuscation, which is an obscure thing that people don't really do, and I was kind of bad at it. My task was just to make a UI for it and like make a UI plugin, which I did, and I understand the concept of data deobfuscation, but I think it was sold in a different way to how it actually functions to me. or I just have like a completely different understanding to what my teacher said from actually like using it. But then again, my teacher was Italian, so.
The tools they would look for and use would probably be something like EDA Pro or Ghidra, a reverse engineering tool built by the NSA and freely available on GitHub to download and use.
So you can literally just download it. I used it to look into game data, actually. Most of which was not actually functional because I was looking at like obscure Japanese games, like, or they're not like obscure, like Metal Slug, or what is it, like Garu, Mark of the Wolves. I just wanted to see how they worked, and it turns out that they were coded in Japanese, and it does not translate Japanese, it translates code. So I used it on the original StarCraft and actually returned some stuff, but a lot of it is in assembly. There is a plugin or a function in it, function like the colloquial sense, where it's supposed to be able to return a readable language. It's not super good at that. You still probably need to learn a little bit of assembly, but it does do it. It's super cool.
Anyways, let's open up Ollie Debug and attach a little DRM test application and see what we get. So here in the main window, we have something that is called assembly. This is normally the lowest low-level programming language used and is very tightly corresponds to machine code. And these are the instructions your computer or phone CPU is actually executing when you're using a program.
Yeah.
The other window panes don't matter at all for our purposes, so we can ignore them. Next, I'm going to run this program as just a simple smoke test to make sure everything's working as we expect it to. Namely, we see the red background and the pirate game detected stuff we expect from our DM. I don't need the live attached process info, so I'll close the app and return to the view we had originally when we opened the .exe. Now, remember earlier how I mentioned IGG games was an ASCII string? Well, that's what we're going to search for. Since the string isn't obfuscated and will be in plain text, we can easily search for it and hunt it down. All right, I see 2 IGG game strings.
Okay, so we have a bunch of strings. Register frame info, deregister frame info, IGGG games, pirated game detected, legit copy, heartbound DRM, argument domain, argument singularity something, overflow range error overflow, so a bunch of like random stuff that doesn't matter, I guess.
In our search, let's just go and open the first one and see what code is there. The first function looks similar to our stub function in our C++ code. The second IGG game strings is just a bit beneath, so let's look at that. Now we see something interesting, notably the D word pointer and the line ending with 0. If we look just a few more lines below, we see more D word pointer lines, except these ones end with 1. I hope everyone is catching on and you realize these are the lines of our original C++ source code setting the
am I able to actually see that? It says mov dword ptr ds colon bracket 2f3004 bracket comma 0 goes to pirated game equals 0. Okay, so it looks like you're tracking this because, or you're able to track this because I'm assuming mov dword refers to, oh, it's all the same one, so that means that it's probably pirated underscore game. And then you have the numbers, which makes it a little easier to track. Okay.
Pirated game variable. Now, since we already know this is the DRM function, what happens if we change the values in those lines below to 0? With all that changed, let's try running our little application again, and we've successfully cracked the DRM, since now the pirated game variable at every point in our program code will always report back false.
Nice.
Now, I'm sure many of you watching have questions and concerns. Stuff like, what if pirate never shared the DRM code? You wouldn't be able to do this so easily and quickly.
No, you
or
totally.
Maybe something like your app was made in C++.
I mean, the game was cracked in a day. So, yeah.
Heartbound is made in GameMaker, so the output files and structure would be different. First, let's pretend we didn't know what the DRM code looked like and we're doing a real blind reverse engineering attempt at cracking the DRM. Let's go through this scenario. Let's assume we already have the original game files. Now we open the game, and let's say we're using one of those Steam client emulators I mentioned from earlier in the video.
Okay.
Let's say we're playing through Heartbound and trying to find information to use to actually crack it. Well, we're in luck, since Heartbound has a piracy message. If you somehow manage to pull this exact scenario I'm describing, here's a screenshot from a user that owns a legitimate copy of the game, and they managed to trigger this pirate message on their Steam Deck, meaning 2 things. 1, the DRM is so bad it has false positive activations, which I find
Holy shit, that is actually hilarious. It has false positives? That's fucking awesome, actually. I'm assuming you guys can understand what that means.
find funny. And 2, we have our unique identifiable, mostly unobfuscated ASCII string to search for in our debugger. The pirate message string is unique enough that we can use it to hunt down the DRM code within the debugger. The reason being, in order for the message to appear, it has to either be checking the pirated game variable or as close to the DRM check function, because otherwise it wouldn't be able to be triggered. In either case, we have enough info from this alone to hunt down the DRM and break it, even if we didn't have the original DRM code snippet for reference. Now, let's talk about the C++ versus GameMaker issue. GameMaker is a game engine, and it has its own process of packaging up a game built together and will include much more files than just a single exe. You might think this would make the cracking process more difficult, but the exact opposite is actually true. The reason is GameMaker builds are something that is well understood, and there are lots of decompilation tools. You might remember me using the term compilation earlier in the video, so let me explain these two terms a bit more clearly now. When you have, for example, our C++ source code and you're trying to turn it into an executable the computer can run, this is called compilation, the process of turning code into instructions the computer can actually understand and can execute. Decompilation is the process in reverse. You have some kind of application and you're trying to convert it back into what the original source code looked like, meaning you can use a decomp tool on the GameMaker build and get back GameMaker language code that it looks somewhat close to the original source code, which
that's okay. That's cool to know. That's like not super interesting to probably anybody but me. That's awesome, actually.
also means you'd have an easier time hunting down the DRM code, since it's easier to reason about in a GameMaker language than it is in raw assembly. So the C++
totally.
reverse engineering example I demonstrated is actually harder and more worst case scenario, relatively speaking, to trying and figure out the crack. Now, to the last question everyone might have, what if that pirated game variable didn't exist and you couldn't change the value to 0? Well, nothing changes even if that was the case. Why? Well, the DRM is so stupidly simple and there isn't any application security measures to prevent reverse engineering or tampering with it. We could have just ripped out the entire DRM function and left it empty. We could have found the places the DRM checks were called and removed them instead. Regardless of what we chose, there's at least a few dozen working options to pick from. And all of this also applies to the actual Heartbound game, not just to the tiny C++ program I wrote. To be thorough,
I mean, that just applies to games in general, or not games in general, but like probably like low. I want to say low effort, because a lot of indie games do take a lot of like stress and toll on a person, but that's like low level game stuff that you're able to figure out.
I'll also cover some application security measures that could be added and some DRM measures, but I'll keep it light and just at a high level overview, since diving into those is way too out of scope for this video. First of all, let's go back to our C++ source
That'd be interesting. Dude, this guy sounds great. Holy shit.
code. Something we could
I'd shadow him at his job for like a week. Oh my god.
add to prevent Ollie debug from opening up our exe would be to add the native Win32 function is debugger present. Yes, that one line would help stop some of the simplest debuggers from opening the exe. Next, we could also add something called string obfuscation, meaning we
Dude, I'm saving this video for whenever I'm making my game. Thanks, clip, save. Save to when me make game.
don't need stuff like IGG Games or the YAR pirate message and easy to search for format. By obfuscating and having a special function to decode the real strings, we could have prevented the search string stuff we did in the cracking process. Another simple thing we could do is what's called a checksum. Basically, we can have our own application look at part of itself.
So that's more what I'm aware of, because checksums is what all Paradox games use. I think the only thing that it prevents is some multiplayer usage and achievements.
Generate a special result from that. So in the case if someone tried to crack the application by removing the DRM, the application portion being checked would be different, meaning the checksum generated now would be different from what's expected and as a result would fail. These are fairly common additional layers of defense for programs to help prevent tampering with the distributed program by end users. All right, with all that, I think we can start wrapping up this DRM analysis. And yes, there's a million more things that could have been done. And yes, there's a ton more application security measures that could be added. There's entire standard bodies around it. I just barely scratched the surface. Also, I'm not a hacker. I don't do this type of work professionally, and I don't mess around with this stuff in my free time either. I'm a complete novice when it comes to this area. But for context, if I didn't stop this video every few seconds to explain what was going on, the first attempt I took at cracking the DRM in total, uninterrupted, would have been 37 seconds altogether. Now, let's return to Jason and see a tweet plus a short where he mentions his assembly and reverse engineering experience.
I'm a hacker. I've been a hacker for 20 years. Part of my job throughout that was working in the games industry. I was one of the guys sitting there pulling down every bot that worked for every MMO that we worked on, everything at Blizzard, grabbed every single one of those, pulled it out into assembly, grabbed the code K from it, removed the polymorphic.
The section is pretty long, so we'll
remove the polymorphic. I still don't understand what that is. What is a polymorphic? It's got to be something that's actually like really easily explainable, and I've just like never heard it before.
Save breaking down the code cave and polymorphic code comments and nonsense, and his comments to VX under.
Oh, okay. Somebody literally like replied with like, "This is a hacker for 20 years and did anti-cheat stuff, and he had removed the polymorphic. What the fuck is he talking about?" And he responds with, "What a code cave is." Oh, never mind. At time, okay. Is he gonna read it?
For maybe a part 3 video related to his hacking claims. The only part from here we need to care about for now is Jason has confirmed to have done reverse engineering and gone through and read assembly.
Okay, I'll just read it. In this case, code cave was the term we used to describe where cheating tools injected themselves into the client for their hook. This is generally done in an area of non-volatile memory, meaning it won't get overwritten. Stable areas of injection equals code cave. At times, we would see hooks like this change per run with bogus push pop commands that did nothing overall. This feature is called polymorphism, or can be described as polymorphic code, meaning it changes the structure without changing the function. They do this to make automatic detection more difficult, as the signature will not be
similar to what we did earlier. That was another reason I chose to use C++ and Nolly debug, since those would have been the language and tool he would have been using during his time period at Blizzard or earlier, since those were some common choices back then. Now, while in part 1 I leaned towards distrust, but I gave him the benefit of doubt on a few of his hacking points, I think it's clear to see Jason doesn't seem to know a whole lot on how to create a secure application or how to set up a real custom
he
DRM
absolutely
solution.
doesn't.
And while this entire video I've been referring to all this as DRM, it really doesn't deserve to be called as such. I can fairly confidently say Jason barely has any application hacking knowledge that you would expect someone to have with his supposed history and experience. So the fact he doesn't even seem to understand any of these concepts or problems makes me fairly confident saying his reverse engineering and assembly claims are mostly made up stories or complete and outright lies. Let's leave the DRM stuff behind us now and move towards the code reviews. Before I start doing the reviews themselves, let me give some additional context. If you watched part 1, you would know Jason supposedly started doing that.
Well, we do know that he's like a social engineer, right? He's not like an actual hacker. And we went through that like social engineers can still be very valuable as hackers, but they're like not the same.
Stuff in 2002, meaning at this point in 2025, he has 23 years of experience programming. When he started working on his first game, Champions of Breakfast, he had somewhere around 13 years of experience. So when he started seriously working on Heartbound, he should have been very familiar with GameMaker and the GameMaker language. Also, he's the owner of the game studio and the only person who's ever touched the code on the Heartbound game. So I don't want to hear any nonsense like his code's bad on purpose for job security or someone else wrote the garbage code and he inherited and has to maintain it. Lastly, all the code we're going to look at is modern and should still be in the game based on what I could find from his live streams. So this is a reflection of his current abilities. I'll be saving all my comments related to Jason's coding abilities for after I finish all the code reviews. Also, let me break down my criteria and rules I set for myself so everyone understands why I chose these code snippets and how I'll be offering advice and comments on them. First off, the code snippet had to be something I had confirmed to be shown on Jason's streams. I had a ton of people sending me code snippets in text over the last few days. So while it might be Jason's code, if I couldn't confirm it, I decided to skip it for the sake of fairness.
I mean, that's reasonable. That is fair, yeah.
Code snippet we'll review today is something I could personally verify has been shown on one of his streams and is legitimate Heartbound code. Second off, the code needs to be a reoccurring problem or have significant impact on a large part of the code base. So I won't be reviewing some throwaway script on some small unimportant object, like some random tree object that has an attached script. This I think is kind of pointless to review, so I skip those kind of super low hanging fruits. Thirdly, unless I absolutely have to, I won't drastically change the code. I'll offer solutions and improvement paths that can be taken to make the current code reach some junior level baseline of quality. Also, I'll limit my advice to things that are possible in the GameMaker language and engine. So design patterns and practices that are possible in other engines or languages, but not easily doable or possible in GameMaker, I'll be skipping. Fourth, I largely won't be talking about performance. We're just trying to get the code to something readable that a real developer.
I mean, that's actually really a really good like rule set for giving advice to somebody who doesn't know how to code. I guess my issue is, I mean, it's good, right? Because the entire point is like you're describing this to laymen at best for the most part. Like that's probably like the largest category of people who are watching who have any basis of code knowledge is like probably low level, closer to like my level. And like the vast majority of people are people who have like never coded in their life, right? This has 1.3 million views. Also, I just noticed that it is cut off. The channel name is cut off. I don't want that. Did I fuck up the cropping? Is that better? Yeah.
team could realistically understand and work on. Having performance discussion and talking about entirely different data structures and game design patterns is too far removed from the topics of this video. Plus, the Heartbound game is extremely simple, so additional improvements here won't truly matter. Fifth, if I basically covered all the issues another code snippet would have, I won't cover the other similar snippets. Basically, there are like 100 files with the exact same problems and issues, so if I address the issues other code snippets would have during the other snippet review.
Oh, but the opposite point is that, like, it would be kind of cool to be able to see, like, what he thinks insanely good coding is like. I guess I would like to see what he just seems like a good coder, so I want to see like what his professional stuff is or opinions are, you know, versus like the pirate software shit.
Reviews. I'll skip over anything too similar so this video isn't stupidly long and repetitive. Yes, there's that many problems with the code base. I felt I needed to add these rules and criteria. With all that out of the way, let's start with some actual code reviews. We'll bring back the DRM snippet and we'll open up a few other snippets as well. If you remember at the start of the video, I talked about truthy and falsy values on the pirated game variable, and I brought up the term booleans. Booleans are a basic data type in nearly all programming languages, and you would use the values of true and false directly.
Yeah, you're using either true and false or like 1 and 0 for occasional languages. It actually came up today, yesterday, in a meeting, where apparently Python. I didn't know this because I do use just true or false. Python, you can use 1 and 0, and I'm like, oh, okay.
When you're checking to see if a variable is, well, true or false,
And you can like pass integers. The claim was that you could pass integers and floats into a Boolean. Maybe not floats. Floats might throw an error, but at least integers above 1. But Booleans can only handle 0 or 1, or they'll throw an error.
We look at these code snippets, we can see Jason is using 0 or 1 in numerous places, instead of using the appropriate data types and values. This is a sign of a more amateur programmer. I just wanted to clear this up now, so we won't have to repeat this in every single code snippet we look at. Now, let's drill down into a specific code snippet. We'll start with the one from the bottom left. Alright, so the very first line, we already have a lot of issues here. So Jason is accessing a storyline flag in a single dimensional global array using a raw index number of 367. Both of those things are terrible, but let me explain what an array is first. Arrays are a basic data structure that stores a collection of elements. Let's go through a quick example. Imagine you have a row of boxes, and inside each box you add a number. To access a number inside a specific box, you would use what's called an index value. In GameMaker, array indexes start
this is like extremely basic stuff, so okay.
At 0. Another nice thing with arrays, there are lots of functions built into your programming language, making it much nicer to work with. Arrays are a basic programming concept and near universal in all languages. Now, let's deal with the index number 367. This is what we call a magic number. Magic numbers in programming are when you use a number directly to check or access something, and there's no way for someone reading it to have any idea what it could possibly mean or refer to without someone else explaining the intent or finding a different file that might hold the context needed. Jason uses...
Okay, so this is probably like one of my few things that I don't understand about the criticism, is because how else are you going to do that for an array? Aren't all arrays using magic numbers?
Magic numbers across all his files and code.
Or is it just because it's a global dot storyline array, not the event name? So you'd have the event name be like lore loses dog, lore underscore loses underscore dog, and that would be how you'd actually be like, you would write that instead of global dot storyline underscore array
code base. So for us to get context on this, let's pull up another code snippet that has the storyline array comments and logic. Okay, there's another huge issue with this code snippet too. Something I'll refer to as code change blast radius. To better understand what blast radius is, let's imagine we're looking at lines with indexes of 207 and 208, dealing with something called middle
Wait, there was text on the screen. What did that say? Code change blast radius. If a code change is made to a file, how many other files will be impacted and require updates or refactors? Yeah.
Okay. Let's imagine we're looking at lines with indexes of 207 and 208, dealing with something called middle storyline flags. Let's say one day we want to add another storyline flag or event for the section called middle. We have two options here. Option 1, we go to the end of this array and add in a completely unrelated area of the array another middle event. So this array has something like 560 indexes, meaning if we added a new one at the end, our
holy shit. There's that many?
Middle event flags would be indexes 207, 208, and 561. This is absolutely terrible since logic events that should be together are at completely random spots inside the array. This causes a whole host of issues. The code becomes difficult to reason about, the magic numbers become even more challenging to maintain and use. It's so obtuse that the odds of maintaining and using this code decreases the more this array is expanded on. So what's option 2? Well, it would be nicer if it was at line 209. So it's logically grouped together, but in order to do that, we need to bump all the under indexes by 1. So the old 209 would be 210, old 210 would be 211, etc. Unfortunately, this is what we call a nightmare code change or refactor scenario. Since if we wanted to do that, we would have to go by hand and update every single index after 209 within this file. Then we'd have a near 100%.
Well, I understand the criticism that's being made, but Thor's code also is probably so simple. I mean, maybe it's not, but it seems to me, well, if you had one choice affecting many things over the entire game, that would probably affect it a lot. But one of the things that I've learned from watching Heartbound is that a lot of the choices are like, they affect a couple lines at most and not all that much. And I think there's like one variable that choices affect that's like, are you good or are you evil, essentially? That does get changed, and maybe that's coded in a good way and all these other ones are bad. I'm not sure.
Code change blast radius, since if we change those indexes, every other file using those storyline flags is going to need to update their index number by 1 if they're at the 209th index or greater. Essentially, the structure is so bad and unwieldy, it's basically impossible to maintain or extend in a good way as it is. Let's deal with the magic numbers first, then we'll discuss a better way to do the story flags. We have two options when it comes to the magic index numbers. We can use const values or enums. Const values are just a named variable with a value that will never change. Enums are a data type that contains its own list of named constants. Enums are a much nicer choice to work with, so we'll go with them. With this enum defined, we can update the global storyline array where index 207 and 208 are with the enum values. Now, isn't this better? Now we have some context for what the storyline array index is for. Plus,
So yeah, just writing instead of event number yes or no, it's writing like the event equals number.
if we return to our previous code snippet, we could change all of these magic numbers into enum values. So 367 could be an enum forest value, 333 could be an enum value for a town, and the 1 and 2 that is Fern and Road could also use a character enum. Now we have our first code improvement.
That makes sense.
The storyline flag structure still isn't good, but we've reduced the blast radius of changes from the entire code base to basically just one file. Since we have a nice abstraction away from the raw index number, we just need to update the enum and the storyline array to have new flag options without having to update the rest of the code base. This also helps with something called developer experience, DX for short. GameMaker includes what we call an IDE, or integrated development environment. Basically, an IDE helps you to code and easily refer to code and values across your code base. So if we use, let's say, the enum example, and we start typing in middle and then dot, the IDE would show us the values under the middle enum, meaning we don't have to search for the file with the enum to see what values we can use under that specific enum. We also don't get a bunch of random type suggestions that don't apply to this situation. Having good DX is important when working in a team, and I'd argue critical if you're trying to build and program something solo in a reasonable amount of time. So we'll stop worrying about the snippets since it's half decent code quality now and workable.
Yeah, I have nothing to disagree with there. That seems like totally true. Developer experience, DevX or DX, refers to the overall quality of a developer's interactions with the tools, processes, and environment they are used to build software. It encompasses everything that impacts a developer's day-to-day work, including the tools they use and the process. Yeah, it's just like, you know, their experience. And the processes they follow. A positive DevX leads to increased productivity, improved code quality, and higher job satisfaction. An IDE is a software application that combines the tools needed for software development into a single user-friendly interface. True! It streamlines the development process by offering features like code editing, building, testing, and debugging in one place, enhancing developer productivity. I actually did get a lesson in school. I'm not super keen on it, where we were told not to use IDEs for a while because it would make us worse coders in the long run. And I'm not sure about that one. I'm sure there's some merit to like being more skilled with harder tools, but IDEs are so fucking useful.
Turn to the global storyline array. While our enum change is a huge improvement over the original state of this file, this still isn't exactly good. Now, before I offer a solution, let's see what
you want to code. If you, viewer, want to code for Java, You got Eclipse. That's what I used whenever I did do Java. I don't know if it's still good. It's probably fine. And for Python, I've used like 3 or 4. And I've used Jupyter Notebooks, which is fine. Not my favorite. Eclipse, I think, also has Python. What's the fourth? What's the third one? I know what the fourth one I was gonna say was. PyCharm. I used PyCharm for a couple of weeks. It's not for me, but I know a lot of people who love it. I primarily use Spider, actually. And for game stuff, I use Godot. Makes sense in my head, just being able to access the scripts and everything. I don't like the drawer system in Unity or Unreal.
Jason used the flat single dimensional array in the first place. So according to Jason, he has a flat array because he wants all the values to be saved exactly the same way in the game's save file so players can modify it. Well, his reasoning is kind of dumb. What kind of code structure you have and the save file format you want do not impact each other. Every single game that has a save file has something called serialization, which is the process of taking your game structure and data and converting it into a format your game will know how to read and reassign the values into the correct places.
Yep, we're back on Hoi 4. I needed something with reduced colors because Turbo Overkill was giving me a headache to look at. It was fun, but I don't want to go to bed with a headache.
This is serialization and deserialization, respectively, and it's a basic concept when making a save file. This is literally a basic thing nearly every single game has. So yes, it's perfectly safe to not use the one-dimensional array here. Next, let's look at a save file. So every line has a random number value that's supposed to correspond to one of his array indexes. Since we know what the problem is and what we need to achieve, now let's actually code up a better solution. Let's start by changing the storyline array into a struct. A struct is a composite data type. Basically, it's just a variable that can hold other variables inside itself. Since we already know Heartbound has 5
Any mod or base game? I am playing World Ablaze as America. Because I hate playing World Ablaze as like every other nation. I'm in their Discord. I've tried a few Germany runs to make it work, even using like the official guide. And it's just like not clicking in my mind how to make it work. Italy I did almost better as than Germany. And they're doing a shitload of updates right now. They haven't put out an update in I think like just under a month. Sorry, I'm like being a spurg about this, but whatever. It's my stream. They're doing a lot of work to make the Soviet Union a lot better. To fight and play as the Soviet Union a lot less shit. Because previously the Soviets were like they're like an AI oriented nation where it's like not even meant to be played by a player, and so much of their stuff was like AI spawn-ins, and that made fighting against them as any nation suck complete ass. Is that the new mod that you can have Trump overflow the Biden admin? No, that's the Fire Rises, which kind of inherited TNO's terrible like eye-bleeding UI, in my opinion. It's okay.
chapters. I'll further split up the structs for the 5 chapters to have some separation of concerns. Here we can see what the structs look like. We have at the top level our chapter, then we have our area of that chapter, and finally within the 3rd level we have our storyline event. What's so nice with this approach is we can now ditch the enums entirely. We can access the storyline flags.
Yeah, that looks good. I don't see anything wrong with this code.
Like this, for example, chapter 1, dot middle, dot Joe sunglasses. Not only is this incredibly clear on what value we're trying to access, but now we also have nearly no code change blast radius if we want to modify a flag or add a new one. The setup also makes it safer if we're working in a team, since now if any changes are made to any of these structs, you wouldn't cause cascading issues to the rest of the flags, as was the case with the raw index usage. While this is nicer to use, this isn't the only benefit. In GameMaker, it's incredibly easy to iterate through a struct. So what we can do for the save game logic is the following. We can take our struct, go through the key value pair, and since we know the depth level, we can nicely format the save file to include the chapter, the section, and the story flags. For example, here we can clearly see which flag is for Joe's sunglasses.
I actually don't have much to add to this section. This is just like, yeah, this is decent coding advice.
Classes. Another huge benefit using these key values directly from the struct is we added some freedom to make refactors and code changes possible. Since we have the struct key inside the save file for the flag, in the future if we wanted to change our code order of flags or add new ones, the struct of the save file wouldn't matter. We'd still be able to easily read in the right values. I think this is an important thing to care about. Since the game
The key info along the value gives us freedom to make fearless code changes to our struct of storyline flags, since we'll have enough info to put it back together. In addition, by having a version number, we can even change the flag names and still have a way of updating the save file between in-game updates without affecting players. Well, is Heartbound ever getting updated? Because I don't think it is. I don't think Heartbound is ever getting updated. And if it is, it's like, it's only additions. I don't think Thor ever goes back to fix code, or like very rarely does.
Heartbound is still in early access, the odds of changes occurring to the various parts of the game are high. And with this save file approach, we're basically in the clear to be as wild with our code changes as we want, and still ensure every player that is keeping up with the game updates is never negatively impacted by them. Also, one other minor thing, I threw in the save file or version number at the top for example. This helps ensure if we're making drastic changes between game versions, you can easily check what version of the save file you have and internally how to update it. Basically, it's just a good practice to ensure players aren't impacted by the behind the scenes work and progress on the game. With this solution done, let's now look at the code comments from the original snippet. With their structure and clarity, we can start cutting out large portions of these comments. We could keep the value conditions since that seems fine. While on the topic of comments, let's pull up some of the other snippets again. The comment frequency is way too high in Jason's code. Code should be self-documenting. Comments are perfectly fine to add if there's some special conditions or some other oddity surrounding the code usage, but some of these code comments are just worthless. For example, here he comments what the function call is going to do. There's no surrounding code inside the brackets that
yeah, these are awful. To be fair, I comment like nothing. My code is actually probably worse than Jason's in this instance. I am horrible at commenting. Because what I do, and this is terrible practice, you should not be like me. I will like write a script, get the job done for a task or whatever, and then I'll write all the comments. If I have time, which normally I do, which is like fine. That you're not supposed to do that. That's bad. That's bad practice.
Function and there's no parameters. If this needs a comment to understand what it's going to do, that means you should be renaming your function, not adding a comment. Also, redundancy like question asked equals 1 and set stuff is just wasting screen space. Maybe Jason was adding this for his live viewers so they would have a reference what he was coding, but leaving this in afterwards I find questionable. Moving on to the next snippet, we have another array to look at, where Jason is manually setting each array element to mostly the same value. First of all, manually setting every single array index for hundreds of arrays is something I've never even seen an amateur developer do.
Yeah, that's kind of insane. That's actually... How do you even have a hands after that? Right? Like, how do your hands even operate after coding that much junk code, essentially? And you're writing, like, almost the exact same things. You could have, like, an array where it's like... Or you could have, like, a function... You wouldn't do this. You would rewrite this completely, but just using the code that's already there. You could just like write a for loop, and then it's like if index equals this, or this, or this, or this, change it to sound, voice, road, angry. But then for all the other ones, you would just have sound, voice, road. It's kind of insane.
It's also problematic in a few ways. Either the array should be initialized with values directly, then modified by using the right functions, or we should be using a for loop, iterating over the length of an existing array and ensuring every index has a valid value if we're completely modifying it to something else. Let's make our code change first, then I'll break it down. So what I did here was I added what is called the for loop. What this loop is doing is I will start at the 0 index of our array, check to see if our current index value is less than the total number of indices in our array, then it'll execute the lines inside the brackets, in our case assign a value to the...
Oh, he does that exactly. I didn't even remember that. I literally just described exactly what he's doing. Shit.
current index. Finally, it will increase our current index number and check the loop conditions again. If the condition is still true, it will keep executing the code within the brackets until either the condition isn't true or we explicitly break out of the loop. Then after we finish with this loop, we manually assign the 2 special index cases with the angry road voice value. Loops are another basic concept of programming. Now, why is this better? Well, for one thing, if we ever change the size of the array code in the future, this code will still be safe, since the array length index will know the exact right size of the array. Also, not having to write a million lines of redundant code is nice too. Second, this is actually much safer and will reduce the likelihood of runtime errors, or what you as a player would know as a game crash.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what are runtime errors? Let's say we have another place in code trying to use the voice list, and let's say Jason thought he had 27 elements in his voice array instead of 26, and he was once again using his magic numbers to try and access index 27 of the road talk voice list. If we look at the original array list, it only goes up to array index 26. So what happens when you try to access an index that doesn't exist? Well, the game is going to crash. That's what's going to happen. This happens because accessing an array index isn't code GameMaker can verify ahead of time. So what happens is GameMaker will launch the game and execute the code up to that point. Once it hits the invalid index, the program will crash, since only at that point in time will it know the array index is invalid and there's no data there to access. Using our approach and the array functions, we can guarantee the full length of the array is accounted for and has values. We could also use the array last function too for the last valid index of an array. This doesn't guarantee the right character voice or expression will be used, but I still think it's preferable to have the wrong voice sound activated while the game is playing, instead of having the game crashing and the player losing who knows how much time or progress.
Yeah. I mean, there's another degree of this of like, at least it functions. Because I'm not totally certain, but no, I've watched, I think, like 4 or 5 people play through Heartbound, and none of them got crashes. They've definitely hit bugs, for sure. But I've never seen, like, a crash happen. Or anything that's, like, game-breaking.
Again, for loops and
Oh, no,
default
there we go.
initialization are very beginner level concepts and near universal in all programming languages. Alright, last snippet we're going to look at for this video. Here we have a gigantic switch statement with multiple repeating cases, and the total case amount being like 1,000 cases for one possible branch path. There's a second branch path where there's like another 100 switch cases inside it too. I think Jason might be trolling us with this one. Let's start with a simple improvement for the multiple cases that are exactly the same code. Normally, when you have a constantly repeating code, you write a function to call it to reduce code duplication and to reduce the possibility of incorrectly copying code and introducing bugs into your program. So if we create a function to reduce the amount of repetition we do, there's a lot of benefits. First, it's a lot easier to read and manage the code and the various cases. Second, it reduces the possibility of doing something incorrectly, especially when you're doing the same step hundreds of times. Again, better developer experience too.
Okay, wait, I need to hear that again, because I'm not sure where he started on that one. Go back like 20
Call
seconds.
it to reduce code duplication and to reduce the possibility of incorrectly copying code and introducing bugs into your
The
program.
yellow and red highlights are repeated multiple times in 1,000 cases. Yes, really, Jesus. That's insane.
So if we create a function to reduce the amount of repetition we do, there's a lot of benefits. First, it's a lot easier to read and manage the code and the various cases. Second, it reduces the possibility of doing something incorrectly, especially when you're doing the same step hundreds of times. Again, better developer experience too. If you have common behaviors in a function, you don't need to manually type out the steps for every common dialogue behavior. It also speeds up
That's true.
development. Since Heartbound is a primarily story-driven game, the more of these common functions you have, the faster you can make cutscenes and dialogue scripts. Now, how do we improve the 1000 switch case? Well, I thought about this for a while, and I think the fastest way to improve it is we take it and we throw it in the trash and never
Yeah, I mean, that's true.
look at it again. I generally thought about this for quite a while. There's essentially no improving the structure. For most of these code reviews, I try to never recommend anything too far removed from the current state of things, but this is generally such horrifically architected code, there's basically no real way to improve it without a complete rewrite of things. Generally, when working with dialogue or complex cutscenes, you'd be using a lot more things than just the raw strings themselves. An array of dialogue structs for the lines would be a fairly common approach, and we could skim through a quick example. So the struct data is pretty dependent on your game and needs, but a few things are fairly common across most games, like having the line itself, the character you want to show on screen, and a dialogue type. Generally, we'll have the event type dictate how to proceed. So a more simple example could be something like the following scenario. Here we have the dialogue array filled with structs, and each dialogue line is a struct in itself, and it tells us exactly what kind of dialogue event it is and what choices and actions are possible for it. This reduces our switch statement to a handful of cases depending on how many event types we end up having. Secondly, it provides a very solid and reliable structure for us to use for all the cutscenes and dialogues within the game. Also,
That's out nearly 1,000 cases from the original code.
variables in GameMaker can point to other scripts. So let's say we needed to do something crazy that requires an escape hatch. Well, that's also incredibly simple, since in GameMaker we can set the value of the dialog struct to another script and call it with script execute. With this, we have reduced over 1,000 dialog cases into a handful that are easy to reason about and extend.
I'm wondering if that's normal for most languages though, and that's not just like a GameMaker thing.
Separate example, I'm not going to dive into this anymore. Okay, with all that out of the way, I think we can start closing up the code review, and I can
Let's read these dialogue options. Var dialogue 1, 2, 3, dialogue 1, line almost done, hang in there, character Mac from Slopper News, dialogue 2, just 2 more code examples, dialogue 3, I do not have the strength to keep going with this code review anymore. Choices, skip the section, save your sanity, power through it, like and subscribe. Yo. So for everything in the array of dialogue, switch, so it uses a loop. Case dialogue, play dialogue 1, case viewer choice, wait for player choice, case custom, script execute.
can start going over my comments. First off, yes, there's a lot more things wrong with the code I've shown from Jason that I didn't talk about. There are way too many things to nitpick, so I try to limit my comments to the biggest issues. I also try to avoid offering changes or advice that is too far detached from its current structure and setup. That's why I didn't run through multiple solutions. Also, I didn't talk about any actual game design patterns, since that would be another video into itself, and he wasn't actually using any inside his code. Next, during the code reviews, I wasn't explaining any special concepts or anything. All of the Boolean stuff, the for loops, the safe default initialization, using functions with parameters, enums or const stuff, all of that is literally intro level program concepts. There was at no point in the code reviews where I went above a junior level developer's expected knowledge. Well, except maybe the struct iteration and the save file stuff.
Wait, really? He considers struct iteration to be above basic? I would consider struct iteration like incredibly basic, or is he saying that that's below basic? I don't know what he's saying. I would very much consider struct iteration to be extremely basic.
To help put this in perspective, let's pull up the Stanford CS 106A Intro to Programming course. This is a first year, first semester type of course. It's incredibly similar to the one I took during my first year of college. And let's just look at the things you learn in. Basically, everything I discussed in this video is stuff you learn in this intro level course. The fact Jason doesn't even seem to have a good understanding.
So he's got Python fundamentals, Python functions, nested structures, lists and strings.
Understanding or know about some of these things is just baffling. If we consider his 2002 LinkedIn start date as when he started learning about programming, that means as of today in 2025, he has 23 years of experience programming. Yet somehow he doesn't even seem to understand the most basic entry-level concepts in programming. It doesn't matter what programming languages you use or learned. These concepts like loops and booleans are essentially universal in nearly all languages. Now, someone might argue he doesn't have 20 years of GameMaker experience. I don't think that's a valid argument, but let's go through it anyways. His first release game was Champions of Breakfast, and he spent roughly 8 to 9 months on it. So for Heartbound, he should have had a pretty good understanding of things. If I wasn't making this video, I probably never would have touched GameMaker in my entire life. The entire time it took me to grasp the GameMaker language and write the
I hated GameMaker whenever I used it. It's not even that different from Godot, but I think it's like the documentation on it, I think, was way worse whenever I used it. It might also be like a recency bias thing, because I am like using Godot like at the moment. Whereas like I'm coming into it on like 4.0 and it's had a shitload of documentation versus GameMaker, which I think was relatively new at the time. That was GameMaker 1. We're on GameMaker 2. And I felt like the docs were not quite up to snuff, but I was also like 15.
Code you saw in this video was roughly 2.5 hours
and didn't know how to code.
Jason
so
passes due to a lack of experience with GameMaker. Now, I avoided trash talking his code too much during the reviews, but let me pull up that mega switch statement again. Let me also pull up some Yandere dev code. Now, I know everyone trash talks Yandere dev's code, but it's easy to see how and why he made this. He had zero previous game dev experience or programming experience, and he dived headfirst into
No, look, people give a lot of shit to Yandev, and he definitely deserves a lot of shit, but purely on his coding, I think he actually did a pretty good job for somebody who's like never coded before.
Unity. He just took the first thing he learned and he ran with it for every problem. The code isn't good by any means, but you can understand why it's like that. With Jason, I'm just left so confused. Like, He's supposed to be a game dev industry veteran, and yet he's making stuff as bad as a complete amateur like Yandere Dev. I also spent some time after finishing up this portion of the video thinking back to all the code reviews I've done in all my previous jobs. I've easily done somewhere in the thousands of various code reviews, and I've reviewed code from all sorts of experience levels, from senior software architects to people having done a 4-month bootcamp and having less than half a year's of experience. And yet, I don't think I've ever reviewed anyone's code that was this bad. I'm not being hyperbolic when I say this, but this is genuinely some of the worst code I've ever reviewed, and I didn't even explain or like dive into every possible issue with it. Plus, if we remember all of Jason's hacking claims, guess what? You need to know these basic programming concepts if you want to do reverse engineering or malware analysis.
Yeah, absolutely. It is one of those things where, like, especially after watching the interview where he didn't, that makes you like question everything, right? Like, the more you see, the more everything else falls apart, and it's like you're looking at ruins and yet there's a king on a golden throne there, right? If that makes sense. Very Warhammer 40k-esque. Where you're seeing like this guy who promotes himself so much as a master whatever, and yet everything around him is like falling apart. You know, we saw from the interview that he made bots. Did he even make bots, or did he literally just work with bots that other people made? He coded Heartbound, but it's not very good, as we've seen. He coded Champions of Breakfast, but that was with a team, I think. It wasn't like just him. Kind of, it makes you wonder, makes you think. It freaks me out that there's a guy who's so successful, and it is a really big motivator for me. I'm not gonna lie. There's a guy who's so successful for video games, and he's like almost twice my age, and yet he has like half the coding knowledge, and so I need to up my game.
This is the foundation nearly everything else builds off of. Taking all that into account, I think Jason has been lying through his teeth about all his coding abilities, all his assembly stories, and just making stuff up with terms he's heard thrown around. If I was working with Jason and I saw this type of code being repeatedly submitted, I would push for him to be fired, with my state of reason being gross incompetence.
Well, apparently from the interview with I don't remember her name. I don't want to say it either. Apparently that interview with that one lady, it was tried many times to get him fired, and staff was just like, no, he's the son of a legend. You can't fire him. He's the legend's son. It's like, oh, okay. Well, there goes that idea. Okay. So I'm debating going through another video or not, because I do have to go to bed at some point. I actually have to kind of keep a better schedule because I have a flight soon. Gonna be another week-long break for me. So I'm gonna use the restroom and I will decide. I want to say the next video is like a Coding Jesus video, but if it's too long, I'm probably just gonna call it. Okay, yeah, we're gonna take a look at the length. If it's above 10 minutes, I'm probably just gonna go. Flash doc. It's 20. Yeah, I'm
The
not.
idea-
I will catch this later. Honestly, it'll probably be like all the hype for Pirate Software content will probably be dead by the time I actually get around to it. Okay, yeah. All right, I'm gonna call it here, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I think I definitely brought at least something to the table, especially with that interview, the second interview. Probably not so much with the coding. That still fucking blows my mind. That lady hated Jason enough to start posting about him on Kiwi Farms, and is now like going public essentially with the information instead of just like on an obscure site. Like interviewing or being interviewed to blast Jason. That's insane. That's awesome, but that's insane. But yeah, I will be on break. I have a vacation. For a while. Next week. So I will be back on the 14th of August. God, that's almost 2 weeks, actually. But I have to get sleep because I am a bad sleeper, so I have to get a sleep schedule actually oriented. And yeah. Yep, that makes sense. Okay. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed the stream. I might make this a video. I'm kind of doubting it because the other Pirate Software one went so bad. People hated that video for literally no good reason. That they commented on. They could have hated it for a genuine reason that I don't know about. But yeah, I hope everybody enjoyed it. I hope you have a wonderful day, a wonderful weekend. Enjoy the weekend, everybody. The summer heat is finally dying down here in the south of America. And south of the USA. If anybody's from Texas or Louisiana, I saw that you guys got a heat wave warning. So I hope everybody made it through. And yeah, I will be seeing you guys on the Thursday, the 14th of August. Jesus, such a big break right after a big break.